Testing.
All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started.
Vamos a empezar.
Our chair, Mayor Lisa Hebner, is going to be participating remotely, and she will kick us off this morning.
Very good. Just testing that you can all hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, good morning, everybody. The March 28th Board of Directors meeting is called to order. First, I'd like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting scrolls are. Click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, 3 dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to hear the original Spanish in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenos días, aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer el uso de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos 3. Luego, interpretación, y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares para servicios de interpretación si se encuentra en la sala de la reunión. Favor de pedir los auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay Digueño, the Liceño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the Sandag community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
With remote participation, we'll need to do a roll call vote. So with the City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Shin.
Present.
City of Chula Vista, Councilmember Chavez. Absent. City of Coronado, Councilmember Fleming.
Present.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson. City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterlin. Absent. City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Here.
City of Encinitas, Mayor Ehlers.
Here.
City of Escondido, Councilmember Garcia. Absent. City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember McKay.
McKay present.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Lothian. City of Lemon Grove, Councilmember Snow.
Here.
City of National City, Deputy Mayor Yamani.
Here.
City of Oceanside, Mayor Sanchez. Absent. City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Here.
City of San Diego, Councilmember Lee. Absent. City of San Diego, Vice Chair LaCava.
Here.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Here.
City of Santee, Vice Chair Minto.
Here.
City of Solano Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Here.
City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Melendez. Absent. We have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you, Michael. And can you please go over the remote attendee procedures?
So we have one remote member this morning, and I will need to confirm some information with Chair Hebner before we start. Chair Hebner, could you please confirm for us that you were able to leave your camera on throughout the course of the meeting?
Yes, I'm able.
Thank you. Is there anybody else over the age of 18 in the room with you? And if so, could you please state the relationship to you?
I'm alone in the room.
And thank you. Could you briefly describe the reason for your remote participation this morning without disclosing any medical information?
I've caught a cold. I am contagious, so I prefer to stay home and not infect anyone.
Thank you. That does qualify for remote participation, so we can go ahead and get started. Vice Chair.
Very good. I'm handing it over to First Vice Chair Akava.
All right, thank you, Chair Huebner. And thank you, Michael. Let's move on to non-agenda public comment.
So with non-agenda public comment and member comments, as a reminder, no comments shall use loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language that disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting. Disorderly conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the board meeting is prohibited. Per our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have a quorum. So based on those factors, the chair has determined that today's meeting, each member of the public would be allowed 2 minutes for their comments. We currently have 6 in person and 2 online. So we'll start with Cesar Javier, followed by Purita Javier.
Good morning. We need help to abate a home-based business, home occupation in ceramics, manufacturing, and kiln operation located at 5238 Streamview Drive, District 9, City of San Diego since 1984. The home-based kiln operation has been a potential harm to human and environment as vulnerable residents in every close proximity to the kiln operation, our medical symptoms are sneezing, coughing, eye irritation, sore throat, difficulty breathing, dizziness, unusual headaches, heart palpitation, anxiety, fear, and depression. We were hospitalized related to the toxic fumes from the kiln operation. The poisonous gases and airborne toxic particulates inhaled and or possibly ingested from kiln operation may lead to respiratory problems such as asthma, pneumonia, and lung cancer. On June 13, 2021, when the homeowner of kiln operation converted the furnace kiln from wood film to gas, the fumes we were inhaling were the worst and more potent. We sought help from the police, and their advice was to build a wall and close your windows. We talked to the kiln owners, accordance with help.
Thank you, Purita. Your time has expired. Our next is Cesar Javier, followed by Michael Brando.
Thank you for 2 minutes. Thank you, Sandag. I learned from this cream of thinkers. And so I am following the principle that
Please speak into the microphone, Javier.
this is how I do my planning also and budgeting. And the issue in our community, which our city, I hope, I think Councilor Sir Chair, you know this, and Sir Lee and Rivera, they know this. Moreno, they know this. all of the councilors of the city of San Diego. They know this, but they're not doing anything to solve this. Thank you that they are members of this cream of thinkers. This is my logbook. And you see that thing there in the center? That's the ceramics manufacturing, which was allowed by the city for some reason, weakness in the governance or something. It's there in the residential zone designated. It's a violation. And we are asking records after records. They cannot show anything to justify this. Now, where is fairness and justice? We are sick. We are harmed. We are injured. My mom, who passed away after this pandemic in the Philippines, she observed this. Cesar, what is that? That's heavy fume. Oh, those are just branches being burned just to cover. Only to tell him lately, mother, that was poison gas, not burning of the usual rural atmosphere in the Philippines. No, they are poisoning us subtly. Remember this Auschwitz poisoning of Jews? I really dare to say.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Michael Brando, followed by Truth.
It's as if I can't even be in a bad mood compared to when I first started coming here because it's become so evident that many of you really don't know what's going on. I've talked with a number of you one-on-one, and it's interesting how people have their own personal timeline of waking up, and we all wake up to different issues in our own time. You know, Cesar was talking about poisoning. Well, there's lots of poisoning. I'm not diminishing what he said. I want to be clear about that. But for example, the bioweapon serum injection, the one that Trump promoted, and the Democrats, but Trump as well. Trump lied and said he saved millions of lives. Over at County Board of Supervisors, they always want to use the phrase data-driven, evidence-based. But when people peel back the layers and look at what's really being presented, Joe, that's not what's really happening. And I don't say all of this in a kind of conspiratorial tone because I think the good news is that when all of these kinds of situations face all of us, either individually or collectively, it really is an opportunity to reevaluate things, reevaluate what we think we're observing, reevaluate the way we understand our own selves. And from that, we can actually grow and create good things. I do want to end on a positive note. I really appreciate Mario's kindness. Anytime I've run into him in the hallway, he's been genuinely kind, unlike some politicians. And that's a good thing. And that's where we're headed. That's the new world. How good can it get?
Thank you. Next is Truth, followed by Mark.
Hey, Laura. Recently, I listened to a SANDAG border to Bayshore update in IB. I heard hopefully people will use it. Maybe there'll be bike counters. There's some data. This is unacceptable from an alleged data-driven agency. Council members said they only see people use the slime green bike lanes on weekends. Yes, because it is used recreationally. People are not using it as a mode of transportation as advertised. That's data-driven deception in action. Last meeting, Mario mentioned a working plan to sync IBWC, SANDAG, state, and federal priorities regarding responsible growth from Mexico. I would like to see a SANDAG letter with demands to the federal government in regards to the USMCA renegotiations. I recommend requirements on Mexico for compliance with environmental protections. Mario claimed there was discussion about an environmental trust fund by Mexico. Of course, no commitments. But even if they had a fund, Alicia, it doesn't mean it'd be spent on anything we find worthwhile. That's why we must demand compliance. Alicia, do you know Becky from Baja? She blamed rain for why Mexico bought the wrong pipes for their treatment plant. not ineptitude. And speaking of compliance, I demand compliance by all chairs with the board policies. Joe, there was zero reason why you couldn't have left the meeting, allowed the rest of us to continue the meeting we came here for, which includes the non-agenda comments you cut. Anyone who stifles public input should not be in office, let alone chairing a meeting. So next time, let Minto chair. The other major issue is the rule of on topic not being enforced. Enough allowing intentional disorder. If we're all allowed to have several non-agendas a day, what's the point of an ordered agenda? If board policies are not going to be followed, then why the heck did you guys make a big deal out of passing them? Lisa, you must keep order in these meetings. That is the job of a chair. When there's a specific agenda item and someone is clearly not on topic, you must ask them to relate their points or immediately get on topic. If not, there must be another remedy. Whether the chair is Joe, Lisa, or Ed Musgrove, I ask this immediately be addressed with the standards that are publicly announced and consistently abided by. If any chair refuses to do their job, then I will call for new chairs. Somebody asked Jay Dunn about how to run a meeting.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Mark, followed by allegedly Audra.
Mark, this is Trump's friend and advisor, Larry Ellison, who wants AI to control pretty much everything in our society.
NVIDIA chips that allow it to build huge AI models. How the data center, Oracle's building a 2.2 gigawatt data center that costs between 50 and $100 billion to build these data centers and train these models. Because these models are so expensive, you won't build your own, as a rule. There'll be a handful of these models. The question is, how do you take advantage of these incredible AI models? And the first thing a country needs to do is to unify all of their data so it can be consumed and used by the AI model. Everyone talks about the AI model, and they are astonishing. But how do you provide a context? I want to ask questions about my country. What's going on in my country? What's happening to my farmers? I need to give it my climate data. No, it's probably has your climate data already. But I need to know exactly what crops are growing at which farms, and to predict the output. So I have to take satellite images. I have to take those satellite images for my country and feed that into a database that is accessible by the AI model. So I have to tell the AI model as much about my country as I can. You tell part of the story with these satellite models. You give a huge amount of information. You tell it where roads are, where borders are, where your utilities are. So you need to provide a map of your country for the farms and all of the utility infrastructure and your borders. All of that you have to provide. But beyond that, if you want to improve population health, you have to take all of your healthcare data, your diagnostic data, your electronic health records, your genomic data. And in the Middle East, in the UAE, for example, they're incredibly rich in data. They have a lot of population data. The NHS in the UK has an incredible amount of population data, but it's fragmented. It's not easily accessible by these AI models. We have to take all of this data we have in our country and move it into a single.
That's Larry at the World Government Summit 2025. The relevance of this related to this meeting and what you guys are doing will be obvious in my next comments.
Thank you. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by first online comment by Paul the Bold.
For transparency and accountability, I need you guys to make sure you're going to see the non-agenda public comments from the last meeting, which would be Paul and Consuelo and I believe Blair Beekman. So they should actually get 4 minutes. And if you're not going to honor that, that's a very severe problem because you're disenfranchising the people and their ability to speak and talk to you guys. Now, what I really want to talk about, and this doesn't really have anything to do with what you guys do here, but it's something that you should be very well aware of, which is the child trafficking that's going on through CPS. And I've already told you about it going on with the border. And we already have the government saying that they still cannot monitor and locate the unaccompanied minors, hundreds of thousands of them. It's intentional what's happening. And all of you and anybody who is a parent is in the crosshairs of this because what is set out to happen, it's not to keep families together. CPS is made to take families and tear them apart, take children from their parents when they're good parents, either put them with a neglectful and abusive parent or take them and put them into foster care. And after 15 months, if somebody has their kids taken, they will adopt them out. Now, these kids are also being abused where they are having caretakers or foster care. They're being sent to the Polinsky Center, which is known for abusing children for decades. And the county runs this. It is very sad to see that we are hiring predators to work with children. And if children are our future, then look at what kind of a future we're creating when we are traumatizing individuals beyond repair. to make them believe that their parents don't care, that it's okay for them to be taken. And these parents go through alienation and just, being told that whatever they're saying is propaganda if they go out and exercise their First Amendment rights. In fact, I was outside the FBI building with some parents because the FBI should be looking into this and making sure that this isn't happening. And they called the PERT team, the Psychiatric Evaluation Response Team, saying that we were crazy. Nothing that was happening was crazy. What's crazy is the fact that this continues and nobody does a damn thing about it.
Thank you. Next is Paula Bull online, followed by Blair Beekman. Paul, go ahead.
Morning, Paul Bold. I just want to point out that, cutting us off was extremely petty that you could not stay 6 minutes and finish your snacks while listening. Last meeting or this meeting, I see no audit updates, and the amendments recommended by the auditors and vetted by the exec committee were removed from the agenda. I'm disappointed. Communication is so important. It helps avoid things like mistaking programs' true scope and objective, or thinking that you are being singled out in some way. I also suggest that your introduction to the agenda items include a summary of no more than 10 sentences. People tend to make more mistakes when confronted with a whole essay billed as an intro. So let's be clear at the start. And let me add that most people approve open communication, especially of their own, so it is really counterproductive in a meeting with a neutral viewpoint to restrict it simply because of time limit. Experimenting is also important. For instance, in a budget crunch, you don't want to be spending money on a failed experiment or a program that doesn't work. So please consider implementing for a month or 3 and make sure. And by the way, I also recommend including an emergency reserve not allocated to any one program. It's easier to transfer if you haven't done so yet. And I would hope that you have the guts to challenge the state, by the way, or ask questions about laws they pass which do not make sense for this city, your city, or this county.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Consuelo.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. There was a 7.7 earthquake that shook Bangkok, Thailand yesterday or the day before. It started from Myanmar. I think it's rare that they have such large earthquakes. I just thought I'd report on it, and hopefully we can learn how the damages that's going to take place from such a large earthquake. Good luck how we can address that. Noted. I also wanted to just simply comment that just an overall thank you to SANDAG for your work with border issues with Mexico. It's really important, I think, the work that we do with Mexico, and we're trying to figure out, the current water issues, sewer issues and such, Tijuana River Valley issues. I think the work that we do at SANDAG, or that can be done at SANDAG, it just creates really important examples for each local city in San Diego County to understand how they can also relate to Mexico. And it's just, it's good work. It's important work. And thank you that you do that and create an example for San Diego County cities that they can follow and relate with in relating with Mexico. And good luck that we have, just open conversations, and we work to make those conversations open in the public space, what we're doing with Mexico. With my final time, a real thanks to DRA, who I think is better talking about the issues of children and what exactly becomes of them once they enter the United States. She's becoming more factual about her information sharing and her feelings. That's nice. It's an important issue that I think we need to better understand, and I hope we can better facilitate in the future, basically. So good luck how we can work on it. And thanks for the words about, yeah, I'll talk about other issues later. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last public comment is Consuelo. Go ahead. Consuelo, you're self-muted. You want to go ahead with your comment? Great.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of an issue. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Let's see. So, yeah, I just kind of wanted to address last meeting and how you know, Joe LaCava couldn't spare 6 minutes. I mean, I'm sure you take more time on the toilet, you know, just at the meeting. You know, it's not, you couldn't have waited a bit. I don't even know if he's in chambers. Sorry, I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning. Children sick here. Let's see. What I wanted to point out, gosh, I'm so off right now. Shit, I don't even know what I wanted to say. I'm sorry, I'm so off right now. Yeah, just let's not censor the people. Let's work for the people. And that's not what I had to say, but I can't freaking find it, so whatever. Happy freaking Friday, and thank you to all the people who do come in, who care, and who don't want to censor other people. And thanks for that. Yeah, I still can't find what I had written to say. How many minutes do I have? Oh, whatever. That's all.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes our public comment.
All right, thank you, Michael. Thank you to the members of the public. So we had 9 public speakers, and that's all, right? Okay. I'm glad we were able to get Consuela in there. So with that, we will turn it over to member comments, non-agenda, and we will start with Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. I just wanted to bring up something that we've talked about a little bit. I would like for us to consider adding a voting position for the county planning groups, because there's about 600,000 people or so that have not had not always had direct representation. Supervisor Anderson is actually the seat B, I believe that it is. And so anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. I think that's something we should definitely consider, to have a voice, because many of our cities have very different needs than our more rural areas, and their needs are very different. And I don't think we all recognize or know that. So anyway, I just want us to consider that. And then I also want to say that an observation, I do believe that our meetings are improving. I think there is better cohesiveness, less conflict, which I think is good. And, you know, I think part of it is our new leadership, but also our new director is not having issues with the board members and getting personal, which I think is definitely good. So anyway, I just want to make also the comment that we need to continue to stay in our lane. I mean, there are a lot of issues that are out there, which I think all of us appreciate as being electeds, but we certainly have only certain things that we can handle here at our meetings, and that we have control over, which is basically transportation and some planning also. So anyway, I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you very much.
All right, not seeing any other board member on the lights. We're going to allow those 3 individuals that did not get a chance to speak last time. They can speak this time. I think all 3 of them actually spoke this morning. But if they had different issues they wanted to raise up, this would be the opportunity for them to dial in and raise their hand. So, Michael, I think you know what who the 3 were.
Sure, the first is Paul the Bold, it was Consuelo, and then Marco Espinoza, if he's still present. But Paul the Bold, we'll go ahead and allow you to talk. Paul, you're self-muted, Paul.
Yeah, hi. Paul Bold here. One must be cautious with tech upgrades, which often have hidden flaws, such as artificial intelligence, which is basically the same old dangerous or intrusive algorithms as before, just fancified or rebranded. It can transform a person's photo from Caucasian to Asian. It can show you where you weren't or doing something bad, which you weren't. So it's basically useless in court, an added expense there for lawyers who have to testify instead of AI and new systems. And also it's potentially defamatory, which is more expense. And also things like cookies, which sometimes end up in places you can't find and didn't expect, and can compromise your data faster than yours can say Jack Robinson or even jacked up. On the other hand, there are technology upgrades which seem to use old tech like the phone system in new ways, which is good use. And stay away from the use of outdated maps or stats to justify things. Look on the bright side. In the intervening time, the problem might have actually self-corrected. And please justify the weighted vote. Does it reflect the opinions of each district? Do they all think the same? Or is it a tool just to justify imposing San Diego's opinion on the entire county? And thank you for allowing me an extra 2 minutes. And I agree that things are improving around here. The meetings are way more open, friendlier. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next is Consuela. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I was going to say last week, or the last meeting, regarding this week's meeting, or last week, whatever. Anyways, okay, so I wanted to address this week's meeting held at our county board. There was more political theater as usual. Wednesday's meeting was a hoot. The board, fronting again, pretended to care about disabled people this time. They had 2 disabled women participating, sitting on the dais. Such a lame display using those ladies as props to try and convey to the public, look, we care about our disabled citizens. We're inclusive. That's equitable, right? They/you, a lot of you, don't truly care. You have some nerve to, they had some nerve to put on a show when they don't even show equity or inclusivity to someone who actually participates at literally every single meeting, and that is Paul Henkin, Paul the Bold. He could use an extra couple of minutes, not because only of his difficulty to speak. I mean, he gets it done, but he has done some excellent research, and you people don't care enough to even listen, quite frankly. Paul works damn hard to get his words out. He preps all week long, volunteering his time to contribute in giving you people, you paid public servants, who should be on several lanes, not just one lane, but ideas and solutions to better our county. All you do is continue to pretend and act like you are working on behalf of the people and do what is for their best interests. Frauds. Paul does it as an investment into the children's future. He authentically cares. That is something many of you lack: authenticity, compassion, hopes. I hope that one day things will change, and that one day there will be a complete change in this beyond all adulterated foul system. One day my husband and all of the people who authentically come.
The last public comment, Marco Espinoza, does not seem to be present in this meeting. Sure.
All right, thank you, Michael. I'm not seeing any other board members on the lights for non-agenda member comment. I'll make a quick comment before turning it back to the chair. I'll certainly take the criticism as a chairing the SANDAG board meeting for the very first time. I know this board, unlike other boards, has very strict time limits, given the number of folks that are here on a part-time basis. And to the degree that we have a policy that the board members want to change to have a little more flexibility. I haven't spoken to the chair, so my apologies to the chair, but certainly be willing to entertain it when we run into situations like this. It is not without, it bothered me walk away at that time because of those hard limits that we have to follow in policy. And you'll find me following policy to the letter. So with that, I will now turn it over to Chair Huebner for her comments.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. Thank you for your words. Appreciate that very much. Before I go into my comments, I know we have a few new to the board room members who are sitting in for their primaries who are absent today. So I want to welcome Mark Fleming, Councilmember Fleming from Coronado, Councilmember Laura Lothian from La Mesa, and Councilmember Ditas Yamain from National City. Thank you for being here and look forward to hearing from you in your participation. Next, as a reminder, and why I'm particularly upset that I'm home and not there, is that today marks the last board meeting at 401 B Street. We've been in that office for decades, and as long as I've been in office, that's where I have shown up for SANDAG meetings. So I'll miss the old building, but looking very much forward to our new building. I've taken a tour of it. It's really lovely, very contemporary, modern, open. It feels great. The boardroom will still have some adjustments after we show up on April, I think it's 11th, our next board meeting. The board dais is a bit too long, so there's way too much distance between the front of the room and the back of the room, and that will be adjusted. So it's not going to be exactly, ultimately exactly as we see it next board meeting, but I'll look forward to welcome you all to the new offices on April 11th. Staff will be providing the necessary details over the next couple weeks to make sure that you know where you're going and know where you can park or know where, how close, in fact, the coaster station and trolley stations are. Finally, last week, the independent performance auditor, Courtney Ruby, reached out to SANDAG board members regarding the annual risk assessment process that she does every year. Please work with the OIPA to schedule a time to provide your insight into this really important process. I'll now turn it over to Mario for his update, and Vice Chair LaCava will be running the rest of the meeting, but I will remain online to participate. Thank you very much. Mario.
Thank you, Chair. It's been quite a busy week that we have had between moving and taking care of business. And this week we had the California State Transportation Agency represented that he's the Deputy Secretary, Chad Edison, visited San Diego, and we discussed some priorities, among them flexible fleets, and toured the LOSA project. We did travel to Sacramento and had a meeting with the other 3 big MPOs in the state. It's called the 4 MPOs in the state. We get together, the biggest MPOs. We represent more than 80% of California's population. We normally get together and discuss multiple things that we're dealing with. At this time, we met with the Housing Department, the California Transportation Commission, Caltrans, and the ARB, the Air Resources Board, in one single meeting. We discussed our shared challenges, including our joint effort to reform greenhouse emissions and vehicle miles travel reduction targets as there are right now on SB 375. Given the current climate in DC, ARB did mention that they're planning to double down on vehicle miles travel. So even more for having that discussion on BMT targets, so we can all be able to meet and get a better environment for our state. I want to congratulate Lori Winfrey, the new role of the Deputy CEO for North County Transit. I wish you the best, Lori. I know that Sean is doing a great job over there. We have 2 bills that were introduced in Sacramento. We had mentioned one, but that would change the SANDAG board composition AB 24 from Assembly Member DeMaio, and SB 240 from Senator Jones. We will send more details later today, and we will continue to monitor and bring it to the Executive Committee to discuss. Follow-up items. We sent an email to the board yesterday on some follow-up items. Our Regional Beach Sand Project 3 Phase 1 update. Mayor Gasterland asked about the cost of Regional Beach Sand projects. We're finalizing the draft feasibility study and economic analysis to be able to get those answers. We expect to have that study finished in July. On the Lawson realignment, Mayor Jones, you brought up if we could put in a map the houses affected by the different alternatives. The teams are still developing the details of those alternatives. They're moving here, there, and I think that level of detail will be available by the draft environmental document circulation, and that's when that can be made available. In a similar tone and same subject, Mayor Mento brought up some drone footage on the different alignments. As I said, we're still tweaking the alignments. We don't have drone footage of the alignments that are being looked at. But again, also when the draft environmental document will come out, we will have visual simulations about those, and hopefully we can give everybody, the board and the public, a better idea on where those alternatives are being proposed. On our project updates, we had our first last week, our first kickoff meeting, the Baja California border regional plan. This is the plan that we discussed that is mimicking the border master plan for transportation. But the goal of this one is to address long-term environmental concerns in the border region. We propose the plan. The plan will identify strategies, programs, projects to protect transportation infrastructure, communities along the California-Mexico border. SANDAG received a Caltrans grant for this, and we're working with Caltrans jointly on this effort. The 2024 Environmental Mitigation Program Annual Report, the EMP as we call it. In this program, SANDAG preserves native habitats to offset potential impacts from our projects. The program is funded through Transnet. It was established in 2008, and the EMP annual report was released last week with highlights of mitigation efforts up to 2024. We will be sending this to all of you. We want to highlight that more than 9,000 acres have been preserved by SANDAG and its EMP partners. 136 grants to local organization jurisdictions have been awarded, totaling $18.8 million. Regarding our toll operations, we keep moving, and we have the target for this summer for our back office system to go online. I want to highlight that this has been no easy task. And right now the team is working on data migration, getting the different rules, but we are targeting this summer to transition into our new back office. On the Del Mar Bluff Stabilizations 5 project, we are about halfway done, and the project is estimated to complete in 2027. May 15, Bike Anywhere Day. So we really want as many as you who wish to participate. Applications are closing tonight for those cities who wish to be pit stops. So hopefully we can have a robust participation in the entire community, as well as different cities and agencies being open to be pit stops. And finally, Mayor Huebner already discussed this. October 18, 1989 was the day that this office opened to the public. It's been 35.5 years, give or take, that we've been operating here. So Mayor Mento is probably, from the board members, one of the ones that has been the longest here, 2002. and I didn't say that to expose anybody, but you know, I was asking different members since when you've been coming here, and Mayor Mento won the test, and you know, for different of us, I started coming in the late 90s as a Caltrans employee presenting reports when I became a tribal liaison for Caltrans. And to me, this was the wow, what a great office is. Having all the leadership in the county was something to aspire at. So it brings a lot of mixed feelings. So we'll be really open and happy to see you in our new building, our new offices for the upcoming meeting. That concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Mario. Just to make sure there's no confusion later on, when responding to Mayor Jones' request that will be available at the preliminary environmental document, is that the draft EIR you're talking about?
Draft circulation.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure we were clear on that. So with that, we will now move to the consent agenda. We plan to defer item number 4 to a later meeting at the request of Councilmember Shin. Councilmember, do you need to make any comments or?
Yeah, just real quick. First, thanks for pulling this. I'm new to this board, and as well as our city manager is new to his position. So I get that there's some sense of impatience in regards to the extension of this grant. I just was asking that we could move this until I can digest all the information and get feedback from our council back to this board. Our next council meeting is April 15th. So I know our next board meetings, I believe, are April 25th and then May 9th. So if one of those two, if I could report back and just give you guys our position, and either way this board goes, you know, no heartburn here, as long as it's no heartburn for you guys to extend this a little bit of time for us.
All right. Thank you, council member. I think we're happy to work with you, and especially given the turnover in your city. So I think you've heard the 2 previous votes, but yeah, so you got a challenge in front of you. So with that, we will now be focusing on consent items 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. Michael, let's go to public comment.
Sure, and just for the record, those members that arrived after the roll call vote, from Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez; from Del Mar, Mayor Gastelum; from City of San Diego, Councilmember Lee; from Escondido, Councilmember Garcia; and from Vista, Deputy Mayor Melendez. So going right into public comments on the consent agenda, just a reminder that item 4 was pulled, and please identify what item you are speaking to. Our first comment is truth, followed by Cesar Javier.
Item 2, the minutes say 6 reps were absent by the only discussion item on the agenda. Pathetic. Terry voted no on the bus stopover. Too bad Rob and Joy didn't have a vote. I find the omission of the fact that Joe censored the last 3 speakers on non-agenda to be criminal. That needs to be noted for the public record, as it was a scheduled agenda item that was dismissed and ignored. And you said you feel bad. If you don't, try waiting all day. You'll really know how bad it feels. Item 3, I approve $55 million for the 67 improvements, depending on what exactly happens and how much longer safety is going to be delayed. The $7 million for South County Rapid Transit, what is that? The overnight Owl Express bus Carolina seemed to have forgotten hearing about at MTS. She pretended she didn't know about it. Or the future Purple Line tunnels under people's homes in National City. Item 4, no to delaying it. This project's taken a record 9 years, and now they want 2 more. And it's probably because they already blew their budget on a bunch of useless roundabouts congested in one neighborhood. They deserve an F for a 50% completion. I don't even want to hear it again. It just needs to go. Quit wasting our tax dollars. Item 5, state funding went from $20 million to $6 million because Newscomb and other cronies blew through our tax dollars at record speed. There's another example of corruption. Out of 277 projects, only 9 were recommended because it's not really about competitiveness of projects. It's more than it is about compliance with state demands. And for projects that do not help anyone get anywhere safely or efficiently without a car. Item 6, I would have liked to see strikeouts in red to no additions or deletions to the master agreement. There's no way to know. I'd have to read the entire thing and then compare it to another entire document. I'm not going to do it. But we need to know, especially if it's based on faux science conspiracies, theories like the Global Warming Solutions Act. Already disproven. Sorry, Al Gore. And item 7. Item 9 was removed from today's agenda. Why? Is it time management? If so, why don't you guys start time managing yourselves versus cutting public comments? It's time to double down on innovative ideas like the mission claims. Thank you.
Next, Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
Cesar Javier, I lumped all these ideas here. I pray that Mom Chair, who is now sick and in virtual, work in Sacramento to recount or recall this 100% bonus density in connection with house affordability concept. It didn't work, and it will not work, if only to house these homeless people. This is co-sponsored by Chair Lakaba and the mayor, who is supposed to be here, leading our city in the think and tank hall, if I might say. Too bad. That's our city leadership. Too bad. We were observant, particularly solutions aired by the cream of thinkers. Thank you, Mayor Coronado. Thank you for that lady on the right who was almost, she was almost to cry and left this hall. Sincerity, passion in her work. Who was that? I forgot the name, but on this side. For the rest of the items, our hypothesis came into a clear template. Adequate, responsive, timely as designed, efficient as planned and budgeted, and ready for implementation. I think Chair Lakaba of the city and Chair Lanyus Lee would learn from this. The adequacy, the effectiveness in rulemaking.
Thank you, Cesar. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Mark. Just a reminder, please identify what consent item you are speaking to.
Number 5. So it's a little bit terrifying to think about all the things you guys are doing and the fact that San Diego is like in a high fire zone, the entire place. It's good, it's just all red. It's good to look forward to that. Means that something's coming down the pipe. And it's interesting because you're losing funding for this, which is fantastic, because then that means it's going to be harder to implement, because I don't think you should be doing any of that until you start to think about and figure out how you're going to evacuate people when you don't want to get them out of their cars, right? The point is to get people out of their cars, to have them walk, bike, and take public transit. Now, I'm wondering what's going to happen if your house gets on fire and you don't have a car and you got to go find public transit potentially, right? Or are you going to get your bike, the tires might melt on your way out, right? I wonder how fast people can run from a fire, right? Who knows? But does it really matter? I mean, it should, because all of you will be affected by it too. But I don't think you guys really think about this kind of stuff when you're implementing the things for your climate god that you worship from coming down the pipe from the United Nations. Again, this is a little mini United Nations here in San Diego. But you're never really addressing that fact. And we know these fires happen. We know it. They've already happened in many places. And with the county putting out the fire map, and it's all red, and yet we still want to implement this and get people to walk and bike and take public transit. What are you going to do when there's a fire? Do we have, are we able to teleport? I wonder if you're going to bring in something like that. Maybe we can, just start flying. I don't know. Maybe that will, have our wings grow. But it's pretty ridiculous that you think that people could like evacuate in a fire if they don't even have a car to do it. I'm wondering what all you would do. I mean, no matter what kind of bag you pack, it don't matter. You're just going to, set people up to die in a fire. Because if you really cared, you would be really thinking about that and not pushing all of this stuff. So as the funding gets cut, it's a blessing in disguise.
Thank you. Next is Paul the Bull online, followed by our last public comment of Blair Beekman. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark. My mistake. Apologies.
Mark 6 and 7. This is Rosa Corey, the Department of Transportation, expert in land use, property valuation, and eminent domain.
You want to check out the nonprofits. This is what it is. This is unelected boards and commissions. This is breaking your jurisdictional boundaries. This is the erection of a new layer of bureaucracy, and it is connected all through corporations, nonprofits, and government partnering together. Federal government, nonprofits, and corporations, as well as state and local governments as well. What you're seeing here, I think this would be something good to take a look at. When I was talking about mega regions, you want to look at America2050.org. That is a plan of the Regional Plan Association. They have a project. It's called Northeast Landscapes. It gives grants to new nonprofits to partner with established nonprofits so that they can learn how to pressure for smart growth. This is what it's designed to do. So they need a comprehensive regional approach beyond property boundaries and beyond jurisdictions. This is what it's designed to do. It is designed to find that you're actually fighting against not just the federal government, but you're fighting against nonprofits that are funded through grants from the federal government and from corporations. Agenda 21 is a plan to produce social equity by impoverishing populations and creating total dependence on government. This is what it's about. Public-private partnerships are about the public taking the risk and the private sector getting the profit. And you won't see anything worse than public-private partnerships with prisons. Privately owned prisons. What does it take? What do prisons need? They need prisoners. How do you get more prisoners? You make more things crime. And this is what we're looking at. Under the cover of environmentalism, the rigid control of a totalitarian state is in progress right now. That is what is behind the green mask. The abuse of our trust. That's what this is. They have hijacked the environmental movement. It's not what you say, it's what you do. All of the rhetoric sounds so good. It all looks so good. Who doesn't want clean air and water? Who doesn't want to be vibrant, livable? Who doesn't want change, positive change? These are all rhetorical terms. They're all manipulation and jargon terms. And this is about erecting a totalitarian state. And I know you know it. United States Patriot Act, U.S. Patriot Act, and the National Defense Authorization Act are part of United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. I never have gotten off of my topic once. All of this is totally and completely related and integral to this plan. Inventory and control.
Thank you, Mark. Next is Paul the Bold.
Let's say consent calendar shortens the meeting, but many of these items need an individual vote and do not belong here. 5, active transport. Wow, the ATP team's final recommendations to cut things sure do reflect the current budgetary situation. Good big picture thinking. Maybe we should put the team in charge of budget cost cutting. PAC 7. Seems the audit people got tired of working with a reduced workforce and now wants to reduce the number of audits and investigations by 2 each. And it looks like it's giving up on increasing whistleblower reporting, which is not good. Are we going back to the dark days of doing nothing about mistakes until they become real problems and blow up for all to see? 3, CEO stuff. 6, let's say, how much did you spend? 6,000 discount on bonds does not balance the 17,000 apparent loss on matured bonds. The 32% increase for SHOPP and the RTIP amendments sounds way excessive for road repairs. We should know why, not about some con funding. The Fed slashed its 2025 GDP forecast to a 1.7 growth rate and now predicts core inflation at 2.8% instead of 2.5%. All this makes a huge difference in what we spend and what you can afford. A lot of it looks like wishful thinking. Not sure if you can keep all the programs you have or combine functions or cut and prune. Something has got to give. Please revise
Thank you, Paul. Your
the
time has
budget.
expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by our last public comment of Consuelo.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the words of Mark today. That was really informational to myself. I felt some of the views of the person was a bit strong, and I don't fully agree in that sort of approach, but yet it was informational as all get out. So we have to, sift through that to work towards our best practices. Good luck how we do that together. At the local community level, I'm trying to figure out how we work on that sort of issues together and to come to best practices. So with that said, item 6 is about a master agreement transit intercity rail capital program with Caltrans. It was nice to hear Mario talk that he used to work with Caltrans. This sort of item, to me, really can be helpful in working towards the future of the Lausanne project through Delmar and the rail project. I don't know if Caltrans can be a wellspring of information about the future of the Lausanne project, but perhaps there's people within Caltrans who can help with the process. You're going to be taught at the Borders Committee meeting. You're going to have a Lausanne meeting with, well, you're going to be an agenda item is about the work you're doing with Orange County officials about the Lausanne project. That's awesome to me. That's informational. I think if we learn to better talk about the environmental issues involved, and that, you know, there's high-speed rail, there's freight rail, there's military rail, there's passenger rail. Can we learn how to talk about those separate subjects more clearly and possibly parse out, you know, projects to say, you know, the freight train issues, you know, to East County and the desert area, passenger issues through the Lausanne area, military issues through the Bluff, Ocean Bluff area, talk in those sort of terms. And really good luck on the future of, I'll talk later.
Thank you, Blair. Your time has expired. Our last public comment is Consuelo.
Okay, I agree, Blair. They can't be clear because they're not even clear on it themselves. Okay, with that being said, I'm just going to repeat also the end of what Paul didn't get to finish saying, and that was please revise the budget. And amen to Rosa Corey. Thanks for sharing that, Mark. And what is data migration, anyways? I mean, does it mean SANDAG is migrating towards actually using our money for the good use of all and not just an itty bitty fraction of the county, like bikers? Road repairs. Y'all do realize those bike lanes and roundabouts are a waste of our tax dollars. And it's obvious how you are, in fact, a part of purposely being reckless, partaking in the manufactured chaos. And that's what is happening. Putting bike lanes and roundabouts in the most dangerous places. I mean, it serves no other purpose than just to be chaotic, and it only makes sense when you're trying to control the movement of the masses, quite frankly. So that's all I got on consent. I'm done.
Thank you, Vice Chair. That concludes our public comment.
All right, thank you, Michael. Now we'll turn it over to the board for any comments, and we'll start with Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Chair. I actually have just a couple of questions on the TIRCP funding. I think that those dollars can be used for also microtransit. I looked it up and I think that they can. So I'm just wondering if all of this has already been pre-programmed and whether we are planning on using any of that for microtransit.
I'll let Susan.
Only because, and the reason that I bring this up is when we were at our joint borders, transportation and regional planning, we talked a lot. I think everyone was in agreement that we really want microtransit projects because they really move people around in our cities. So I was just kind of curious if that's.
So there are two buckets of TIRCP funding, and one is formula funding and one is competitive. And so there is a process that we go through in order to prioritize projects for the TIRCP funding. So it's not completely programmed forever and ever. This could be a funding source. We'd obviously have to work within the guidelines of the state to make sure that we are allocating those funds on appropriate projects, but we would certainly be able to look into whether it would be appropriate to use those funds. But what's before you today is the agreement between SANDAG and Caltrans to continue to work with it within that program.
Okay, and that's how I understood it. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have the pre-programmed, but it sounds like not because of that competitive part. And then when this comes forward, as far as, you know, having the competition, would we be able to, you know, I would assume that through MTS and then also NCTD is how we would do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we work with our partners on those funding sources to prioritize projects to go after in a grant program.
Perfect. And then I did have a question about whether part of the criteria in the competition would be a cost benefit analysis, or if that's even part of it. I'm just kind of curious.
Generally, that is a
I
criteria
just
for
want- I-
most of the competitive programs that we go after.
I assumed,
yeah.
but I never like to assume anything.
No,
But thank
and,
you. Yeah.
and to add to that, I mentioned on my report, we met with Chad Edison from Calsta, and they are very instrumental on setting up grant programs for different funding pots, including this one. And we presented to him the idea of microtransit, and he was very supportive and provided us a lot of good ideas of be creative of how we could probably pursue grants for even broader microtransit. So it's an ongoing conversation, but it's being put on the table and we're getting good feedback on it.
Good. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So thanks for the clarification on that.
All right, thank you, Mayor Jones. We'll go to Mayor Gasterlin next.
Thank you very much. I want to speak to our board member Kevin Shin's request to remove item number 4. The justification for it, I believe, is really strong, and that it's appropriate for new council members to ask for more time to digest impacts, especially when it affects their own city. And this is responsible governance. And I want to compare it with what did happen with the Del Mar railroad relocation. And Del Mar invited all the board members here to come and visit Del Mar, to look at the sites, to see where the lines would be, where the portals would be. And my understanding is that very few of the board members did that, and then voted yes to move the NOP forward without that personal experience. So I really applaud board member Shin for this. And I'd like to take it a step further. All 4, we have 1 empty seat until 2026, all 4 of our council members live within 500 feet of either the railroad track itself right now, 2 of us, or 500 feet of where a relocated tunnel or portal would be, and that's all 4 of us. So our city attorney is trying to figure out what on earth is our conflict, because every one of us is conflicted in a different way. So this is a problem, and thus I could not really credibly be here to speak because I might conflict myself simply by talking, and so would every one of our board members. That's why we invited this board to learn more. At this point, the deed is done. The NOP will be released. The EIR will go into process. And several years from now, when probably very few of us will be here, the draft EIR will come back. And I'll note that today we have 9 people at the table. It's actually 8 because Oceanside is missing, but Oceanside counts in the 9 members who have been here for less than 3 years, less than 2 for most of the 9. And 10 that have been here for 3 or more. So it's really important that someone like Councilmember Shin, who is new on our board, really ask for that time. So I support that, and I hope we all do the same. And I want to end with addressing perhaps with a question, and I'm putting this under the context of withdrawing item 4, that NCTD has an agreement with BNSF. That contract was from when NCTD bought the tracks from BNSF. And BNSF has an obligation in that contract to agree to carry freight on new tracks when reasonable. That's in the contract. The military has a contract with BNSF to carry freight. So I think there's more to the question than this board heard. This board won't hear it anymore. It's in our executive director's hands at this point, and I think it's in really good hands there. So I welcome that. So question. I heard one of the public speakers talk about purple line tunnels under homes in National City. If that's the case, I'd like to know more about that. If that's not the case and doesn't pertain to these items, perhaps that could be clarified. And my last comment is, I would like to know the location of the kiln in question that we have heard about many, many times from public commenters. The person's name is Cesar Javier. It may not be within the purview of SANDAG, but maybe once and for all, we could learn as a board the address of this and understand what are the permits, and perhaps our board attorney could get some guidance on what steps who can make what steps to help these folks resolve their quality of life issue. Thank you.
Just on the purple line, I think the team will be coming and providing updates as we are moving. I know we have done to some of the committees. The purple line is going to be a very complex and long lead project, very long lead. We are looking into an early action more than anything, partnering with Caltrans on the managed lanes and then doing rapid buses. That is achievable within a reasonable period of time. Pursuing most probably a light rail through the purple line, that's a very long lead project, probably even longer than the Lausanne realignment. So that gives you an idea of how in preliminary we are. But the team, Antoinette and her team, will be coming and providing updates of where we are and all the different ideas. It's a long lead and very complex and expensive project.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Gaslin. I'm not seeing anybody else requesting to speak. Since there's no further discussion, may I have a motion to approve the consent items 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7?
So moved.
All right. That was you, Councilmember Yamani, or was that Chavez? Okay. So we have a motion by Mayor Minto and a second by Councilmember Chavez. Please vote with your remotes.
We also need to do roll call vote. So with remote and roll call as well. So starting with City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Shin.
Present.
Oh,
Is the vote?
vote.
Aye. And I'm present.
City of Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez.
Yes.
City of Coronado, Councilmember Fleming.
Yes.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson.
Aye. Aye.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterlin.
Yes.
City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
City of Encinitas, Mayor Ehlers.
Yes.
City of Escondido, Councilmember Garcia.
Yes.
City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember McKay.
Yes.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Lothian. City of Lemon Grove, Councilmember Mayor Snow.
Aye.
City of National City, Deputy Mayor Yamani.
Aye.
City of Oceanside is absent. City of Poway, Mayor Voss.
Aye.
City of San Diego, Councilmember Lee. Oh, sorry, it's a vote, excuse me. City of San Diego, Vice Chair LaCava.
Aye.
City of Santee, Vice Chair Minto.
Aye.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Aye.
City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Yes.
City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Melendez.
Yes.
Close the votes. That motion passes unanimously with those members called.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for catching that important step when we have somebody participating remotely. So with that, we will now move to draft fiscal year 2026 program budget.
As the team is setting up and Don, our chief financial officer, will open up, I think it's very important, and I highlighted this in the executive committee. This is a budget that it's right now representing a snapshot of where we are. We have some legal commitments to present the budget to Caltrans, as Caltrans is the agency that provides us both federal funding through their delegation and state funding. And there's a time requirement to present a budget. We will be having discussions on priority projects as we are going through the year in our meeting that we're going to have in May, also our offsite. That's going to be continuance, and also we are looking at what's happening with the federal government. So all those moving pieces are going to eventually bring us to budget amendments and come and discuss based on what the board's priorities are and what's happening in our federal administration as programs are shifting, moving. So I wanted to put that in front of you. This is a budget that represents a snapshot of the reality that we have currently, the information that we have currently, and this is to meet their requirements to keep moving forward and keep getting funds into the agency and the region. So I'm going to pass it on to Don.
Thank you, Mario. So good morning. Our team is here today to present this draft fiscal year 2026 annual program budget. And over the last several months, our program and project managers, directors, the leadership team have been working to develop this draft budget. Today, they're going to provide information on the budget and the expected timeline through May of this year, when we expect to submit the final budget for board approval. The budget's been carefully assembled to align with state and federal funding guidelines, ensuring compliance while advancing these critical transportation projects and programs. So as Mario mentioned, a key part of this process is submitting the annual program budget to our funding agencies for their review. And this year, the state has set May 9th as the deadline to submit our final budget. So timely submission safeguards SANDAG's ability to program funds in the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, authorize expenditures, and process reimbursements for our ongoing projects. Meeting the deadline helps us secure the state and federal funding eligibility for these essential projects and programs, and it also helps us maintain our strong standing with our key funding partners. As Mario also mentioned, today's review and the final budget developed this spring is a snapshot in time. It's really just the beginning of a broader, more in-depth conversation. So we will be engaging the board of directors and our regional partners to further refine the budget in the future to ensure that the projects we're advancing not only meet our regional commitments, but are also supported by sustainable funding strategies. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to our Director of Financial Planning, Budgets, and Grants, Susan Huntington, for an overview of the process.
Thank you, John. There we go. So SANDAG approaches the development of the annual budget by first focusing on the projects and programs required by our various mandates and responsibilities. Each of these designations not only gives SANDAG access to critical funding streams, but also comes with specific obligations and requirements that guide our work and how those funds are programmed and spent. How do projects get into the SANDAG budget? Well, unlike many cities in the county of San Diego, SANDAG budgets by project rather than by department. In order for a project to be included in SANDAG's annual budget, it first must be part of an approved regional plan. So the regional plan is what provides the long-term vision for the region. And from the regional plan, the board and agency leadership identify which projects to prioritize. We then identify or pursue funding to complete those projects. Once funding is identified for a project or a program in the approved regional plan, it moves into the SANDAG program budget. Finally, the projects in the approved budget move into the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, which is our investment plan where funds are committed to execute projects and programs identified in the regional plan and in the budget. All of these documents are reviewed and approved by this board. So as we get into an overview of the budget, I just want to provide a little bit of context. So our budget operates within a revenue constrained framework, meaning that every expense must be backed by available funding. Current circumstances regarding funding and the economic outlook are evolving quickly. In February, you may recall that this board received a detailed economic and budget outlook report, which highlighted downward revisions in both Transnet and Transportation Development Act funding, which are tied directly to our local sales tax revenues. We're also closely monitoring any potential impacts of recent federal executive orders and policy changes, particularly those affecting transportation funding. The shifting federal landscape introduces new uncertainties around certain funding streams. Despite these challenges, we remain committed to staying flexible, collaborating with our regional partners, and advocating for resources needed to keep our projects moving forward. You'll hear today from our directors efforts we've made to identify areas where we can reduce costs without compromising quality or timelines. And then with that, I'll jump into chapter 1. Chapter 1 of the budget really is the exciting piece of storytelling for SANDAG. This is what's showing what we're going to be doing in the next year. It ties all of the chapters behind it together. The budget really is numbers driven, but chapter 1 is the narrative. It puts it all together, and it's really exciting, and we're very proud to be presenting all of this work that we're doing on behalf of the region. In terms of the budget itself and the numbers, the FY26 draft program budget is $1.3 billion, same as last year. 685 million, more than half, is dedicated to project development and delivery of our capital program. 90 of the 112 capital program projects are in support of the Transnet Major Corridor Program. 459 million of the budget, nearly a third, it's those pieces on the left-hand side, those 3 pink slices. That's our Transnet revenue that comes into SANDAG as the Regional Transportation Commission. Those funds are then passed through to different programs based on the Transnet Ordinance Flow of Funds chart. You can find a lot of detail in Chapter 4 of our budget on how all of that money is allocated to the different programs, and there's additional information in there on the amount of money that is planned to go to both the transit operators as well as the local jurisdictions. Over 100 million supports the overall work program, and there's 86 million funds regional operations and services. The directors will highlight projects within each of these budget components as they're going through their charts. About 3/4 of, you can see from this slide, about 3/4 of the revenue that's used to support the SANDAG work plan come from state and federal sources. Most of these are dedicated grants for specific projects and work efforts. Transnet sales tax only accounts for about 15% of the revenue we use for our projects internally. Other local funds are the Transportation Development Act funds that I referenced earlier, member assessments, and toll road revenue. Given that 30% of the budget is funded with the federal funding, we are concerned that certain federal funding is at risk and could eliminate or delay our projects. At this point, we're watching very carefully, particularly on federal grants, where we want a competitive grant opportunity, but we don't currently have an executed funding agreement. Currently, staff is reviewing funding constraints and opportunities to develop contingency plans to projects tied to these grants. We're assessing key factors such as the scope and timing of each grant and exploring whether alternative funding sources may be available for substitution. It's important to note that much of our funding is grant specific, meaning these funds are restricted and cannot be repurposed to other uses. Although we have revised our Transnet revenues for FY26 downward, as I previously mentioned, Transnet remains a crucial source of revenue for the region. It often serves as the required match to our discretionary programs, and we know that the US DOT continues to prioritize strong co-funding partnerships when awarding grants. Next, I'll hand it over to our program directors to dive deeper into the projects and programs within the budget components. They'll highlight the steps we've taken to identify savings and efficiencies, along with any strategic decisions we've made to rescope, adjust, or shift projects. To start it off, I'll turn it over to Antoinette, who will begin with an overview of the overall work program.
All right, thank you, Susan. Good morning. Antoinette Meyer, your planning director. The overall work program is really the non-capital projects and programs at SANDAG. It covers 55 different work elements totaling $105 million, and it's mostly state and federal funding. It primarily covers planning work, but it also includes outreach and education, data science, so the modeling work that we do, the research projects that we do, financial management, and then the grant programs that we administer. And you'll notice that the largest expense category there in orange is pass-through funding, and that's money that we pass through to your agencies in the form of grants or to the transit operators for things like the Youth Opportunity Pass pilot program. And I do want to point out that this is the last year that we have funding for the Youth Opportunity Pass pilot program. So for the OWP, like the rest of the budget, we first and foremost focus on prioritizing the mandated work, the work that we have to do in order to continue to get resources in the region. So obviously developing the regional plan is kind of the number one priority. Implementing the near-term commitments that we've made in the plan and RENA are examples of mandated work. We're also focused really on studying the feasibility of some of those major capital projects. You heard Mario mention the Purple Line. That's one example. Airport transit connection is another. How could we deliver those projects at a lower cost sooner and still provide the same benefits? So we'll be talking more about that with you in the coming months, the feasibility analysis there. The increase that you see in the budget from last fiscal year to this fiscal year is primarily grants. So this is money that we received from the state through our housing acceleration program. Much of that money was being passed through to your agencies and the tribes to further housing development. Flexible fleet grant program, we'll be doing a call for projects for that soon. So there's $4.5 million there. Specialized transportation grant program, and also the smart growth incentive program. So we're doing a lot of granting of funds this year. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Robin to talk about the admin budget.
We're going to go to the ops budget. I'm hitting it. Good morning. I am Lucinda Broussard, the Director of Regional Transportation Services, and I will go through what's in the operations budget and what all projects comprise that operations budget. So as you can note, it's the 125 toll facilities, the I-15 value pricing project, freeway service patrol, automated regional justice systems, and also criminal justice systems. But there are also other things that are going on. We do mobility projects, intelligent transportation system operations. So not just what you see here, but inside there are a whole lot of little operations projects that go on and support for facilities that we do around not only SANDAG, but for the county. One of the things I'd like to note is in this chapter, there is a real good, I would say, a kind of down deep of what ARGIS is doing, and they have 65 members. That's one of the member assessment groups in there. So ARGIS, Automated Regional Justice Systems, is part of the assessment, and so is SANDAG, and also Criminal Justice Information Systems all make up the assessment part of our budget. The other parts of our budget are Freeway Service Patrol, and that is 511 call boxes. We have 524 call boxes. We're trying to make sure we have 379 in the rural areas. So call boxes are part of that, and we do all the maintenance on those call boxes. And also the Freeway Service Patrol, which has, I think we're at 64 trucks, but it's not just, it used to just be tow trucks, but now we're tow trucks and pickup trucks to make it more, we're still meeting our 10 minutes, but we're trying to get more efficient. Not everybody needs a tow. Some people just need gas, air, whatever they need. We can provide that with a tow truck. As you will note, we have a change in our budget, and that change that you see, 6.1 million, is regarding the toll roads. Basically, we've had our operations turned over to operation and maintenance from capital projects. We've accepted our roads, so we've done a lot of testing, and now we've accepted both our I-15 and our 125 roads. So now they're going into operation and maintenance. And we also have the new back office that Mario talked about that's coming on, that will come into operations. So with that, we have more staffing we need as we implement a new system. It takes people to be there to answer phones and questions from customers. We'll also need more supplies for all those, not only the people, but the customers. So people will be getting more tags. We need to make sure we have transponders available. So all of that comprises that 6.1 million additional. I'm going to turn it over now to Clint. Am I going to Clint? I'm going to Clint.
Good morning. Clint Peace, the Director of Program Project Management. I'm going to cover Chapter 5 of the Capital Program today. So the Capital Program budget, it's the largest component of the SANDAG program budget, approximately 51%. And it's $685 million for fiscal year 26. And that is a direct result of the state legislation that made SANDAG the responsible agency for construction of major regional transportation facilities. So the annual spending for 26, it's relatively flat. However, there's a couple in the larger multi-year program. There's about a $255 million increase due to new state and federal funding allocations to 6 projects. There's more details in the report, but the 6 projects are the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry, the 805 South HOV conversion to express lanes, Eastbrook to Shell double track, the Delmar Bluff stabilization, $9 million to the bike program, and 52 improvements in the transit priority in there. So as mentioned, the capital program includes a multi-year Transnet Major Corridor Regional Bikeway Program, other transit and capital improvements, as well as the environmental mitigation projects. A few of the key projects that begin construction in 26, we do have Otay Mesa East, San Diego Lagoon Double Track, the 94-125 South to East Connector Phase 1, the University Avenue Bikeway, we have Bayshore Bikeway, Barrio Logan Phase 2, Orange and the Orange Avenue Bikeway, all projected to begin construction next year. And some key projects that will be open to the public or going live in 26 include the Blue Line Railway signal improvements, bordered to Bayshore Bikeway, downtown to Imperial Avenue Bikeway, Barrio Logan Phase 1, and the Bayshore to Imperial Bikeway. I do want to respond to Mayor Sanchez brought up a question to the exec committee regarding the I-5 HOV extension. There's the extension from 78 north to Oceanside. The project is fully funded for design, $11.3 million. Caltrans is the implementing agency for that design. They anticipate approximately 2.5 years more to complete that design for construction. That segment is not currently funded for construction. And so we'll work over the next 2.5 years to identify funding for construction for that segment. Currently, they're working on the traffic studies and they expect those to be completed in the near future. So if there's any other question on that, let me know. And
I will
So
take
is it
it
Rob?
from here. Okay, sorry, I sat in the wrong place and I mixed everyone up. Okay, so we save administration for the end because this is really where everything comes together. We've been going chapter by chapter to walk you through the budget. The last few chapters of your budget, chapters 6 through 8, is where we start to talk about the internal operations of the agency, really the core services, how we bring this all together. So that'll include things like IT, finance, HR, the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor, and administration. And we wanted to start here because I think it's really important to recognize that you can have all the money in the world that you might want, but unless you're like getting the fundamentals right, getting your policies and your procedures figured out, you're not going to get to where you want to get to. And so we're spending a lot of time here at SANDAG to really focus on developing our standard operating procedures, our policies. We've talked a lot with this board about the turnover that we've experienced, I think similar to many of your jurisdictions as well. And so it's more important than ever that we're taking the time to really think through how we do things. Is this the best way to do it? And is there a better way to do it? This all ties back to the pillars that Mario introduced to all of you late last year when he was talking about his performance evaluation. So we just wanted to reiterate again our commitment to these 3 things: oversight and transparency, leadership and structure, and focus on fundamentals. This is something that we're carrying out through every single department throughout the agency, as we're looking line by line to identify those cost savings and efficiencies that Susan mentioned earlier in the presentation. Something we discussed at the executive committee, Mayor Jones had asked about the work that we're doing on our internal controls director. This is a position that we're going to be recruiting very soon, and we see this person really having a pivotal role in bringing all of this work together. So they will oversee sort of this network of administrative analysts throughout the agency that will be responsible for compliance, whether it's compliance on our contracts measures, our budget, fiscal, audit, whatever it takes to make sure that we're really not only following the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law and the intent that this board has established for all of us in carrying out the duties as public servants at SANDAG. So at the core of all of this, right, the heart of the agency, though, and behind all of the policies and procedures are the people who get this work done. So I'm going to turn it over to Josh now to talk to you about our human resources budget before we get into the admin and the board budgets.
Thank you, Robin. My name is Joshua Golter, and I serve as the SANDAG's Director of Human Resources. Our personnel budget is composed of 3 main elements: staffing, resources, compensation, and benefits. In regards to staffing, we are continuing our process of being highly strategic with our staffing resources by repurposing and reallocating vacancies to the highest priority areas within the agency.
3 new positions have been added for FY 2026, 2 for OIPA, and the Director of Internal Controls that Robin mentioned. Compensation. To ensure we maintain a competitive compensation program, 2 recommendations are being proposed for FY 2026. Adjusting our position classification salary range table by 3%. This expands our pay structure to stay competitive and has no direct cost impact. And a compensation adjustment pool of 3%, funding to pay increases to address market alignment and retention. And then to benefits, we are recommending no changes to the benefits offered to employees, and we will continue to make contributions to 2 trusts that fund our retirement benefits. I'll now turn it back over to Robin.
So in looking at the administration budget overall, you'll see a decrease from last fiscal year to this fiscal year of about 2%. That said, I do want to plant the seeds that we are continuing to review all of the line items in the admin budget. So I fully expect that there will be additional changes that we're bringing to you when we bring forward the final budget in May and potentially when we bring the fall budget amendment to you as well. I just wanted to flag some of the key areas where you'll see changes between fiscal years from FY25 to FY26. The first one, as I mentioned, within your administration budget are all of your expenses for the Office of the Independent Performance Auditor. The audit committee reviews the budget for OIPA and recommends it to this board. Since this draft budget was posted, the audit committee actually took additional action. And so we already know that there's going to be changes between draft to final. Just to give you sort of a preview of that, in the draft in front of you, OIPA had requested 2 new additional positions for their office. In the revisions that you'll see when we bring the final, they've repurposed one of those new additional positions for contracted services. They'd like some funding to be able to bring on consultants to carry out additional audits in response to what they learned through the ethical climate survey. And they're also looking for some software to pay for that. So you'll see those changes when we bring the final budget to you in May. Next up, I wanted to highlight the office move. So as several folks have mentioned today, we are very much in the midst of the office move. This will be your final day having public meetings here. This is one where you'll see a lot of reductions between FY25 and FY26 because we had to bring on a lot of resources to prepare for that move. In FY26, those resources can go away. That said, here's another seed. This is very much going to be a multi-year project. We fully expect there to be additional expenses as we move into this space and really figure out what our needs are going to be over the next few years, including in the boardroom, as Chair Huebner mentioned earlier today. Next up, I wanted to flag for you outside legal counsel services. So this has been a very active conversation for this board in figuring out how you would like to be served by a general counsel or an outside contracted counsel going forward. We've already included funding in your draft FY26 budget to allow for that expense should this board choose to move forward with an outside contracted counsel. And we've also included additional funding for legal services just on behalf of the agency. These are funds that have typically already been used through the budget, but we've moved it to our contingency reserve so there's more transparency in what those funds are being used for going forward. We also have new requirements from the federal government about ADA compliance going forward. Any of our externally facing products have to be ADA compliant. That is going to be a major effort. We push out a lot of information. And so we've included funding in the FY26 budget to account for the work that's going to go into that work. And lastly, Finance Department audit implementation. You'll see a line item for this one. This board has tasked your Office of the Independent Performance Auditor to conduct an audit of our Finance Department. And so we have proactively included funding in the budget so that we can implement the recommendations from that audit next year. Those are just some of the key changes to highlight for you in the administration budget. And I'll turn it over to Susan to wrap us up.
So based on executive committee approval earlier this month, we have submitted the draft budget to our funding partners and have received preliminary comments back. We've also presented to other of our working groups and plan to continue to do so following this meeting and into next month, where we are looking for feedback and comments on our draft budget. We'll incorporate that input and return in May with a final budget for the board's approval. And once adopted, the final budget will be sent to our funding agencies for their final approval and revenue allocation for fiscal year 26. The Board of Directors is asked to approve the draft fiscal year 2026 program budget as presented, or to direct staff to either make specified revisions to the draft budget or provide the board with additional information regarding projected revenues or proposed expenditures in the draft budget. And I'll turn it back to you for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you to the entire budget team and walking us through that. So with that, Michael, let's go to public comment.
We have 10 in person and 3 online. The first in person is Truth, followed by Cesar Javier.
First, whose narrative on the so-called better way? If SANDAG is the co-lead agency for air quality planning, where are the plans to work with the state and feds to address the sewage that will be increased by the OMI border crossing? All we've gotten is some vague one-liner from Mario about a mystery meeting with a mystery Mexican. No name, no date, no evidence. So Mario, why not openly speak with Steve Padilla, who did a sewage switcheroo with SB 10, which would have provided a long-term funding solution from the OMI toll? Why does SANDAG not work with the U.S. Army Corps to build a solution? I'm looking for innovation in these budgeted projects. Mayor Paloma pointed out that recent studies have shown that CARB's air quality mandates have been exceedingly violated by the current environmental pollution coming from Mexico. There's plenty of agencies that SANDAG has direct access to collaborate with to change that. If it continues to fail to do so, I could see several lawsuits coming. $80 million for toll lanes, $9 million more to useless bike lanes. When are the transit projects going to be completed? Why are they as old as Lauren Cazares? There's a section that says SANDAG is authorized by statute to place a ballot measure before the voters and use the sales tax to provide infrastructure that improves quality of life. Examples include public transit. Yet there's nothing about public transit that improves quality of life. Who wants to walk more to find a station or stop? Who wants to walk more, who wants to wait around in the dark, the heat, or the rain? Who feels safe walking into a trolley with blacked out windows? Who wants to ride with drug addicts? Who wants to hold their bodily functions till they get home 2.5 times longer than those who have cars? What a crummy quality of life SANDAG pushes. Cut those empty 60-foot rapid transit buses that are clogging and destroying the roads. There's a freeway service patrol to help stranded motorists. What about stranded public transit users when a trolley breaks down? Happens often. It's always the state and federal mandated status quo. Note to the unneeded ATC and note to the YOP that puts children at risk of trafficking. All projects need to be justified by using real, unmanipulated data. And shame on SANDAG for not fulfilling the ADA requirements. That's been on the agenda for a long time. Thank you.
Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
Cesar Javier. Thank you, SANDAG. Excellent presentation. Uncertainties. Nature is indestructible. We can only protect us, humans, and the thing. Number 2, we have a budget of 1.3 billion. Focus on mobility and circulation. You know, this is urban planning. There are 5 elements, and we are only tackling 1. I could just compare this, and I'm learning about how the city of San Diego, the lookalike of the county, San Diego, how do they budget this 2.7? I mean, fund this or program this to the other 4 elements for urbanization, which is our environment, man, his shelter, and the society. Big question mark. We have money. And we cannot tackle even a great percentage of sheltering, roofing our homelessness. Look around. This is SANDAG situation, like city of San Diego. What can we do? Problem solvers, social judgment skills possessive, thinkers. Politicians are assigned leadership by the people, expecting Councilor Lacaba to produce his mental juice to quench the hungry, thirsty, oh, that's metaphor, have-nots, if I may say that. They can display how they propagandize the animals at the zoo. Worst, better than humans? Contradiction, your honors. Let's wake up because...
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Mark.
Who is ready to walk, bike, and take public transit, you guys? How cool is this gonna be? Oh my gosh, like, I mean, you guys need to start doing it now so you can make sure that it's gonna work. So if you're gonna be pushing this, you better be, and I don't know, maybe we need to get horses. I feel like that might be kind of cool, especially if you're like escaping a fire, because the horse would pretty much probably make sure that you got out of it. And then I'm wondering, it's like, just this dystopian future is really looking cool. I'm just wondering with the ADA compliance, like, that's definitely something you should be doing, but can you imagine being in a wheelchair? Like having like a walker or just, being bedridden and having to evacuate? Cool, right? It's gonna be good. What are you gonna do? Just hope somebody comes? Just hope that, it's interesting how much money we spend on this new future that you guys have laid out for us. And it would be amazing if like the roads actually got, upkept. But why would we do that when we want people to walk and bike and take public transit, right? That's pretty ridiculous to ask for those type of things. And so, it's interesting because it's like, how many other things are you guys going to get involved in? Is it going to be healthcare at some point? You know what I mean? Because it's like, we're supposed to be transportation, but let's go into housing, right? Because it's a racket. And if you guys want to make some money, we got to get into all of that stuff. It's like the NGOs who are money whores. It's like anytime there's a grant, you guys are like, what are we going to do? What else can we offer to the people, right? So I'm just wondering when you guys are going to practice what you preach and start just taking public transit here, well, obviously to the new building, but also, or just walking. Especially the people in the unincorporated area. I think that's going to be fun. People could lose weight, right? It's going to be good. It'll be healthy. It'll be so fantastic. So looking forward to seeing you guys on public transit.
Thank you. Next is Mark, followed by Guadalupe Rojas.
Mark, I feel sorry for you guys. A lot of you are good people trying.
Honestly, it looks like the EU, the European Union, which started as a trade agreement. It is designed to fail. Redesigning government. I was just on a international global governance conference. I was one of the speakers at this conference with President Václav Klaus of the Czech Republic, Ambassador John Bolton, former ambassador to the United Nations, and Prime Minister John Howard of Australia. We were talking about global governance, and this is what this is. This is what Václav Klaus, what President Klaus was saying, is that the Czech Republic got its freedom from the Soviet Union only to become basically enslaved by Brussels. The EU is run through Brussels. They have the power to rubber stamp. This is where this is going. Regions, livable communities, sustainable communities, community partnerships, one planet communities, unelected boards and commissions, a loss of our freedom and our sovereignty. This is what it's about. Now, the United Nations has a land use policy. They came up with it in 1976 at their Conference on Human Settlements, which is where we live, by the way. You think you live in a city, it's either a transit village or a human settlement, according to the United Nations. They said land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by individuals and subject to the pressures and inefficiencies of the market. Oh no. Private land ownership is a principal instrument of the accumulation of wealth, and therefore it contributes to social injustice. Public control of land use is therefore indispensable. Public control of land use. This is the goal, is to take land out of private ownership and move it into control by the government. If you have doubts about communitarian law in the United States, you look no further than the 2005 Supreme Court decision, the Kelo decision. And what that did not. Some people think that gave government the right to take your property and give it to you. No, that already existed under redevelopment. What the Kelo decision did was it redefined public use. Under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, we're guaranteed the right of just compensation when our land is taken for public use by our government, right? Well, public use, it's a road, we think we know what public use is. No, the Supreme Court changed it to anything that makes more money for your municipality is considered to be a public use. They changed the definition of the public use. The end justifies the means, and this is transferring land. 16% of New Hampshire. 16% of New Hampshire is owned by federal, state, and local government.
And that's, and SANDAG.
Thank you, Mark. Your time has expired. Next is Guadalupe Rojas, followed by Ryrel Baker.
Hello, everyone. Guadalupe Rojas, community organizer with Mid-City CAN. I'd like to start by thanking SANDAG for having funded the Youth Opportunity Pass program for the past 3 years. This program has really benefited public transit-dependent communities like that of City Heights, which is also a disadvantaged community. Communities like City Heights often face limited access to reliable transportation, harsher environmental impacts, limited employment opportunities, educational disparities, and reduced access to healthcare and social isolation. Thanks to YOP, youth in our community have been able to get to places they really need to, like school, work, and medical appointments. YOP does not put any youth at risk. Hearing stories of youth who can now do more extracurricular activities because of the program, and those who have visited the beach for the first time is what encourages us to continue advocating for the program and improves safety on transit so that no youth are at risk. That is why we are here to ask you to stay committed to the agency's mission to improve equity, transportation, air quality, and economic development. By seeing the value of service programs like YOP, and we ask that you please consider allocating for programs like YOP. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Rynell Baker, followed by Alexis Crespo.
Rynell Baker, good morning. I would like to piggyback off what she just said. You know, I come from an organization called Youth Empowerment, and we pretty much support the youth and the students right there in the City Heights area. And what we're asking that you, requesting that is that you continue to fund them when it comes to the transportation as of making it from their home to school to get their education and to other places safely and back home again. I don't know if you know what goes on in City Heights, which you probably do, but it's a lot of gang activity, criminal activity, as well as domestic violence and other things that goes on that shouldn't be going on in that area. And by you funding them and for them being able to make it from home to school safely, you prevent them from trying to navigate through those little situations as of setting themselves up and getting caught up and with the law or any law enforcement or that case or whatever it may be. Now, what we do is we hold after-school programs throughout the year, summer programs when it comes to personal development, teaching them how to handle difficult feelings, and also conducting themselves with responsible behavior. And it's very effective. They're able to not only get to school, but they're able to get to us, and we're able to take them on field trips as well. Just last year, I'm 54 years old. I was born and raised in San Diego. And I went to the zoo 2 days in a row with them for the first time in my life. Imagine that. And we had a ball. So we do like to continue to do a lot of positive, productive things with them when it comes to being able to take them to places, to the safari park, or whatever the case may be, so they have something to do when it comes to the after-school programs in a positive, productive way as them being individuals to evolve as people and as well as a community. Thank you.
Next is Alexis Crespo, followed by Kareli Cedeño.
Thank you. Alexis Crespo. I am the Chief Program and Development Officer at Youth Empowerment. Rynell Baker is one of our finest mentors that we have, and we are here to advocate for the Youth Opportunity Pass. The disparities of transportation throughout City Heights is damaging to our youth. They are the future, and we need to be pouring back into them. City Heights specifically is very difficult to get around. As Rynell spoke, there's a lot of gang and negative activity. The work that we do with the youth is to provide positive experiences for them, and we figured out with our evidence-based curriculum for the social emotional development and enrichment activities is what really corrals the kids to make these changes. Getting outside of your community does a lot for your personal and professional development. We have taken youth who were born and raised in San Diego to the beach for the first time in their entire lives. That is extremely, extremely upsetting. Cutting the Youth Opportunity Pass program is going to be very damaging to grassroots organizations like ours. It is the only way that we were able to bring our kids on these enrichment activities. We are a grassroots organization with a very limited budget. We're talking about the budget today, and hearing that this is the last year that the Youth Opportunity Pass has allocated funds for it is really disheartening. So I'm hoping that we can work together to identify how we can keep this going. Our young people need us to do better for them. Our young people need opportunities to go out of their communities and bring back all the positivity and beautifulness that San Diego has to offer to them. Please do right by our youth. Please do right by San Diego and continue to support the Youth Opportunity Passes. It is the future. Thank you.
Next is Kareli Serrano, followed by Braicera Cisneros.
Hello, board members. My name is Corelli. I'm going to be reading public comment on behalf of our community member, Marisela Ramirez. She couldn't be here because she's at work, but she wanted to express her concern for the importance of a YOP extension. I'll be reading it in Spanish since she wrote it in Spanish. Hola, mi nombre es Marisela Ramírez. Mi petición a la Junta Directiva de SANDAG es que empiecen a considerar extender los fondos para el programa YOP más allá del 2026. Es una gran oportunidad para que todos los jóvenes puedan continuar su educación y no vean el transporte como un obstáculo. Personalmente, mi hijo se ha beneficiado mucho de ese programa porque yo trabajo y no tengo que preocuparme de llevarlo a la escuela porque él se puede ir en el transporte público. Yo como madre soltera es una gran ayuda económica. Les pido que vean el impacto que ese programa tiene en las familias y los jóvenes y les pido que extiendan la financiación hasta que se consiga financiación permanente. No podemos perder ese programa. Gracias.
Next is Bryce Cisneros, followed by Maria Cortez.
Hola, buenos días, miembros de la Junta Directiva de SANDAG. Mi nombre es Briseida Cisneros. Soy de la comunidad de City Heights. Estoy aquí para agradecerles que han financiado el programa de YOPIP desde el 2022, pero también para pedirles que asignen fondos para YOPIP después del 2026. Es importante para nuestras comunidades que les extiendan los fondos a YOPIP mientras encuentran financiación permanente. Creemos que las próximas generaciones también se beneficiarán de esta oportunidad. Yo como madre soltera de 5 hijos me he beneficiado económicamente en ahorrar dinero para cosas más importantes como la comida. Con los pases, mis hijos y yo hemos tenido más oportunidades de viajar y explorar actividades. Los miembros de mi comunidad han luchado mucho para que este programa se haya hecho una realidad. Nosotros hemos visto el número de estudiantes que utilizan el programa y cómo les beneficia. Es vital que no corten este programa, porque muchas familias como la nuestra sufrirían sin esa oportunidad. Gracias.
Next is Maria Cortez, followed by Paul the Bull online.
I'm going to continue to hold this because I live in City Heights. I wish we had the program when my daughter was a child. She's 41 years old. I continue to fight for our community, for our kids, because they deserve the same rights as everybody else has. And just think, this is not only just for the City Heights kids, but everybody in San Diego, the East County, the North County, South County. And some of you told us no, that you weren't going to do this. And I see some of you here today. But guess what? Your kids get to enjoy the same thing as everybody else does. And I'm going to say I'm damn proud to do what I'm doing here, not only for our children, but for everybody's children here. I think what SANDAG is doing is great. I would like to see you continue to do this past 2026 because this is what it's about. The kids, they have a great opportunity. They're going to not only to their schools, but they're also going to after-school activities. They're also getting to go to the beaches, places that they've never been to. And I know because I hear it from the kids. I used to work at an elementary school last year. I was there for 36 years. To hear those kids say that they got to take the bus, their parents went with them, and they got to go somewhere. That was something. To hear the kids, or even when I'm taking the bus or the trolley and I see them use the pass, I give them thank you. And I tell them, I said, you know what? We got this started. It was for you guys. And they said, you know what? Thank you, ma'am, because now we're able to get to our high schools. We're able to go places where we haven't had the chance to before. And they said they wanted to say thank you. And please thank the SANDAG people for us because they are our future. And that makes me damn proud. And so please.
Thank you, Maria. Your time has expired.
Continue.
Next online is Paul the Bold, followed by Blair Beekman.
Paul Bold, why are you wasting your time and our money on a draft
budget we know is way off. In fact, one of your budget people in the administrative budget even admitted this. There are huge budget deficits and uncertainty at the state and federal levels, which basically seem to change daily. On March 19th, for instance, the Fed sharply lowered its 2025 GDP forecast to a 1.7% growth rate from December's 2.1%, and predicted core inflation at 2.8% instead of 2.5%. But you didn't adjust much, if at all. If you have a pie-in-the-sky, unrealistic budget, the feds will be a lot more likely to dismiss the whole thing, fire sale deadline or not. Now, nor is your own funding in the counties particularly stable either. You should re-examine a budget which projects the same level of funding from these entities as the last meeting. Please stop painting a rosy, unreal picture because it will catch up with you. And we'll all be really unhappy when you need to slash or delay needed improvements. The budget says SANDAG's revenue is subject to both state and federal approving annual budgets, which we initially assume will remain flat. That is now sure to be wrong. The big picture, you have a 1.3 billion budget, the same as last year, of which 44% is funded by the state and 30%.
Thank you, Paul. Your time has expired. Next is Blair Beekman, followed by our last public speaker of Consuelo.
Hi, thank you. A lot of public comment on this item today. Good. I wanted to comment. Thank you for it. Thank you for this item. You offered an overall philosophy that I thought was interesting. You called it oversight and transparency. Nice ways to put that. We really want to work. In the old days, we used to say the words accountability and transparency. You've offered a very important touch in calling it oversight and transparency. That offers the public participation process more. That's good work on your part. Thank you. Yeah, I think the work we do towards accountability, oversight, and transparency in the coming next few years is really important to ourselves. It really will shape the future of SANDAG. So good luck in those efforts that you'll really want to do that with your budget issues and how we talk and communicate with each other. The work I do with tech accountability can really lend itself to what you're trying to do with these things. Tech accountability is a way to talk about the future of our community tech and data collection that is open and clear and safe and trusting. It's important work. We have a whole new set of ideas coming up about the future of biometric technology in our bus systems, in our toll booths. We're going to have make sure those conversations can be open and clear. And I bet you guys are 10 tons afraid to have those conversations openly. I hope we really can learn. I am too, as a matter of fact. Good luck that we can be learning to talk about biometric camera future more openly and clearly. With my remaining time, I just wanted to quickly remind, we have new train patterns for the Lausanne corridor that will travel through, I think, the Del Mar track area, and that have minimal harm to houses and the environment, the lagoon area also.
Thank you, Blair. Your time has expired. Our last public comment is from Consuelo. Consuelo, go ahead. You're self-muted at the time. Go ahead.
Hi. Okay, Consuelo here. If you really want to empower the youth, encourage them to get involved and pay attention to what these fraud politicians are really up to. What goes on in City Heights and other lesser fortunate areas is all by design. They don't care about the youth. They only want and care to contribute in keeping our youth ignorant and dependent on government. I encourage you, the ones there asking for opportunities, to continue to attend these meetings, these propaganda updates really, as often as you can. Pay attention to the pattern of what they do and don't do. There's no plans for things to get better, only plans for them to be in total control of the people's movement. Do yourselves a favor and please Google, research the UN Agenda 21. We are being played. They continue to misinform the masses and sell their drunk as progress. It's anything but progress. Wake up. I'm done.
That concludes our public comment, Vice Chair.
All right, thank you, Michael. Can I get the screen for board members? All right, thank you. I'm going to kick off with a couple of just targeted questions. So I want to thank the good folks from City Heights. For those who don't know, City Heights is very engaged and very organized, has influenced a lot of policy at the city of San Diego. So I just wanted to get clarity. So the Youth Opportunity Passes is in this budget for FY26. The question is FY27. And at some point, we should take the board's temperature about asking staff to pursue that. Did you have any comments on that regard?
Yes, we have been working into different alternatives, and we will be coming and presenting to the board and to TC different options of how it could be continued. This will be required also working with MTS and North County Transit, because some options includes them in some of their resources. And it could be swapping dollars for operations that can be used for the youth opportunity. So we will be coming with different options to this body and the committees, so we can work this together. And the board will ultimately provide us the guidance if you wish to continue and if some of those options are feasible.
All right, and then one last question on my side, the impossible question. This is a budget, this is only a draft because we have a timeline. We'll be coming back. Do we have any indication about when we'll get insight from the federal side about the various funding sources that are built into the budget?
I think it's going to be between Susan and myself here and Don, but no. To be quite honest, as you could see, it's a roller coaster as you watch the news. I do have to acknowledge that in a couple of the grants that I had mentioned on the past meeting, we have now gotten questions by the federal government. We've been working with Caltrans on some of them. We've been working with North County Transit on others of those 2 infra grants that we had mentioned. So things are starting to move. The comments haven't been that adverse. It's been just factual. Can I tell you when? Positive, negative? No, but we continue to engage with the federal agencies as well as our partners, and we're just taking a day at a time and doing our best jobs to show the value of those projects that have been awarded the grants.
Thank you, Mario. All we can do is, like you said, know what we know today. And address the draft budget in front of us. Okay, I'm going to go in the order that I see them on the screen. So we'll go to Ms. Maxon, Association of Planning Groups.
I've got it. Thank you. I was looking forward to a potential expansion, not a contraction of the Youth Opportunity Pass program. I'm concerned and somewhat alarmed that this is the last fiscal year the program will be funded currently. Will flexible fleets or microtransit be expanded? What will SANDAG do to support the non-driving yet GHG-friendly youth of the rural and unincorporated areas? How will we provide a path to opportunity and success within the larger region for our low-income and geographically disadvantaged youth? Last, I had an idea using the Columbia Tower apartment break room suggestion as a way to save funds on the downtown bus stopover project. Using that suggestion would provide savings that could fund the Youth Opportunity Pass for our children. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. We'll now go next to Deputy Mayor Melinda.
Thank you. Thank you for this report. Thank you, Member Maxon, for your comments. I agree. I want to share my temperature about the Youth Opportunity Pass. I would like to see it expanded. But as we are investigating financing options, even a reduction in funding would be better than completely eliminating the program. And then I did have one compliance type question. I see that our government designations determine the framework for what we do, and that we are a co-lead agency for the air quality planning at federal and state designation. And so in reference to that designation, the report states that we will work with land management agencies affected by our transportation projects. But what else outside of coordinating with land management agencies, what else do we do to meet that designation? And are our projects and programs required to be compliant to particular air quality standards?
I can speak a little bit to that. So SANDAG is also the coordinator of the Air Quality Conformity Working Group. We do all of the air quality analysis for projects, the RTIP, and the regional plan. That's a group that's made up of regulatory agencies at the local, state, and federal level. So that's the primary role that we play in air quality and coordination of air quality efforts across government entities.
Thank you. Is there anything in this draft budget that speaks to air quality related projects?
Well, air quality is incorporated into various projects, but there is one OWP that is specifically for this work. It's 3100600, and it's called Air Quality Planning and Transportation Conformity.
And I think it's important to highlight that the entire regional plan targets a greenhouse emissions target. So it's incorporated in any of the projects that we're doing, as well as the group of projects that the region pursues to get to those target emissions. And we work on also the BMT mitigation, which is targeting greenhouse emission reductions. And then we do this type of work more specific. And there are other OWPs like the one that I mentioned that we're going to kick. We are starting, which is the master plan for environmental mitigation for border areas. It looks into water quality, air quality. So there's multiple areas where that's being addressed.
Okay, so in part, we're meeting this designation via compliance with our projects. And I would advocate for more funding going towards programs and projects that reduce greenhouse gases, right? Active transportation projects and the like. Thanks.
All right, thank you. We'll go next to Councilmember Chavez.
Thank you. Primero y antes que nada, gracias por venir, señoras. Gracias por compartir sus historias y gracias por representar a la gente que no tiene voz en esta mesa. I absolutely agree with keeping and seeking additional funding for the Youth Opportunity Pass. When I talk about this, I was looking at the programs, and I've been benefiting from programs like the roadside assistance back in 2013. I was leaving SANDAG actually because we had a liaison office here, and my phone was dead. I blew a tire. My spare was didn't have air, so someone out of a miracle came up to me and helped me. So, and when you know it's late at night, and I hate to be profiling, but when you're a woman and you're really young, you don't really understand, what's going to happen. I don't have a phone, so I know we're helping a lot of people with these programs, and we have to be mindful of that. I want to thank staff for all the hard work assembling the budget and forecasting economic conditions. I do want to highlight In attachment 5, we're seeing a notable trend on SR 125 toll revenue continues in upward trajectory, even as local sales tax revenue declines. This underscores a critical point. 80% of trips on the SR 125 start or end at Chula Vista, business or residence. These are not discretionary trips. Let's just reflect essential travel for South County residents navigating work, school, and daily life. This further reinforces the urgency of addressing the SR 125 status as the county's only toll exclusive roadway. So let's just be mindful that we still need to get to that. I do fully support extending the future in public transportation is making it accessible. As someone who used the trolley when I was 20 years old, frequently as a young adult with not a huge paycheck, I can really appreciate where the community is coming from, and we need to do better to listening to them and creating programs that better address their accessibility. Thank you.
I thank Council Member. We'll go next to Mayor Snow.
So I also wanted to just echo my support for the YOP program. We've seen a threefold increase in the number of riders. It's one of the programs that actually work to get people out of their cars and onto public transit. Also, as chair of the Social Equity Working Group, that was the topic for our conversations yesterday and received wide support from most of the members there. So I think that this is an important and urgent matter that we seek and put and prioritize funding for this. Next, regarding the federal issues with our federal grant funding, I noted in like 3 of the new projects that are proposed that are part of a significant component of the next year's proposed budget. We have number 1 was the Otay Mesa crossing at $119 million. I have deep concerns with that program anyway, and giving 100 acres of land right there at the border to the current federal administration gives me deep concern. I think it's something that maybe we want to revisit in the current climate and have alternatives for what we want to do if we're unable to get that funding. We've also seen a deep reduction in federal staffing, and particularly even in Homeland Security and what's happening at the border. So even if we put a crossing there, if there's no one to staff it and no one to run it, what did we do it all for, and what did we spend all this money for? I also noted that 2 of the other ones, the 105 South HOV conversion and the SR 52 improvements, all were based on federal funding. And so I'll just be keeping a careful eye on that to make sure that we are able to work to fulfill those. That's a total of about another $87 million there. So these are significant projects that we're looking at. And then I think that's all for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll go next to Mayor Gastelum.
Thank you. I have two comments. The first one, so I spoke with Don and Susan yesterday, or 2 days ago in my briefing about this, but I wanted to raise it here. The Youth Opportunity Pass is really a neat program. It actually changes the culture inside the buses. You know, I had the opportunity to take the MTS 30 bus from south of Bird Rock back to the UCSD campus, and it happened to be just at the time when high school was getting out, and the bus was packed with high schoolers. And it was just so much fun to see them all interacting with each other. You know, it's not just getting people on the buses, it's being on the bus together. And I remember when I was a kid and I took the T4 and the J2 in the Washington, D.C. suburbs back and forth to extracurricular activities of various sorts, you know, including a math class that I wouldn't have been able to take had I not had the bus, because there's no way my parents could have driven me. We also have the benefit of greenhouse gas reduction. For each kid who's on the bus, that's a parent who's not in the car taking the kid to where they need to go. So I really hope that we're factoring in the greenhouse gas reductions at that level. And so here's the query. So we're in year 3. In year 1, there were youth who were 17 years old and 18 years old, and they are now 19 and 20 years old. And in year two, there were youth who were 18 years old, and prior years, year one, who are 18, were now 19. So the point being, this year, we have 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds who used the Youth Opportunity Pass, and we could potentially ask the query of the Pronto Pass, which of those Youth Opportunity Pass users are now Pronto Pass users? Where are they in our county? You know, the 30 bus, this was La Jolla and Bird Rock. So it's not just City Heights, but it's City Heights who's here and who are asking for it. So I really thank you for raising this. I think this is important for our region. This is not just an investment in future transit users. This is an investment in our youth today, enabling youth to do things they might not otherwise do, and enabling to do it without the greenhouse gas. Money well spent, in my view. So I want to pivot to the Del Mar Bluffs access improvements. So what we established the other day is that there's $2 million in the budget for doing the planning for the underpass under the railroad tracks. That was mandated by the California Coastal Commission when they approved the bluff stabilization in June of 2022. And the access, what people really want is to get to the other side of the tracks. You know, getting down to the beach would be new access, but getting to the other side of the tracks, that's the critical short-term access. At this board, 1 year ago, the previous mayor of Encinitas made a motion to divert $14 million that was going to be allocated last year to this access to the other side of the tracks, and reallocated it to a project in Encinitas that was effectively construction ready. So I'm glad to see this $2 million now, because we can now plan and talk about it. You know, this project has been starved of funds for getting going, even though the bluff stabilization has moved forward. So that's the big and the little. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll go next to Council Member Shin.
Thanks for your briefing. Questions first. Direct more probably towards Robin. So Robin, your staff that you have for your public affairs, it comprises of a director right now, it's acting, and then how many employees do we have under there?
I'll say 38.
Okay. I say it because, so I'm just gonna ask you, how difficult is it to do public affairs for something like SANDAG?
It's very rewarding.
I think I can chime in a little bit there. You know, this agency provides, you heard services, in one spectrum. Now spectrum, it plans the system. It delivers the projects, and it does a slew of many things in the entire region. And that requires a substantial amount of outreach when we're going and impacting Imperial Beach with the bike projects, and Imperial Beach called us in and said, we need more communication with our public. So that raises the level. The different programs that we have, like the youth opportunity, let's call it, it was being launched. The team had to promote it, and we had to work with MTS and North County Transit on getting people explaining how they could enroll into it, because it wasn't just, hey, I'm a minor and I'm getting on the system for free. It took a whole engagement process. So our public affairs group is not just a group that does ads and engagement, and it's a group that communicates what's going on with our projects, communicates what's going on with our planning, and communicates and engages with the community on our multiple programs that we're doing. So I do want to, put that part of it, that it's a huge effort that the agency does here, not just to do, as it's called, public affairs. It's an entire engagement in different levels of the stage of a project or a program.
Yeah, I say there's like two extremely difficult positions to be in right now in SANDAG when it comes to staff. One's yours, Mario, and one would be public affairs. So you're talking about a board of almost 20 elected officials all pulling and pushing to get what we need for SANDAG, and you have to interpret that, right? So kudos to you, Mario, or you need a vacation every once in a while. But for Robin's point, I just say it because there probably needs to be ways for us to be able to support and enhance what it is that you're doing. You have great staff here, I see it, but then there's a disconnect between what it is that we're able to interpret for our city specifically, right? So it's extremely difficult. More to overemphasize what you're saying, Mario, you have to cater to each one of our jurisdictions, and that comes with extreme difficulty. So what we need for Carlsbad is not what we need for in one area or the other. But we do need a very specific message to be able to provide to our constituents, or else SANDAG looks like, for example, if you're out in the rural area, we don't want messaging that sounds like it's like downtown San Diego, right? And vice versa. So whatever it is that you need to be able to enhance that, but yet provide effective solutions for us so that I have something tangible, quick, extremely digestible for people who just do not care about SANDAG, because most of my constituents don't, but they do want to know what's taking place with our roads and infrastructure. So then I have to say SANDAG, and sometimes if we don't explain enough or be able to provide what this brand is, it becomes very negative quickly, right? Because we're expending budgets, which is our taxes. So when I see the line item and I see the budget, it doesn't seem much, and I think there's room possibly to enhance this so that all of us as electeds can look pretty sharp when we get back to our constituencies and say, this is what SANDAG and I am providing for you as the public. So that's my only question. And then just quick comments. We have I've never seen a forecast of the economy be this turbulent and unknown. I'm not extremely old, but I still am an investor. And when I invest, I usually see some opportunities for a give. I don't see anything right now. I say that because there's no compass right now. And so I just hope that all of us as constituents are going to maintain some flexibility for what you guys have to go through this budgeting process, and knowing that in a couple of quarters from now, this may become a complete rewrite. So we just have to have just a little bit of patience in regards to what we're going to see next. So as we see indicators of inflation or what have you, or labor issues that are taking place, that we'll just be here to support and ensure that we're there with you. And we understood that what you had just said, Mario, right now is that there is no compass, and we're going to try to find our way through this jungle. And then last but not least, with the YOP, I was a latchkey kid. I don't know if that's still legal or not or anything like that, but I was that growing up in LA, and there was only one way out of the streets. And so the only way out of the streets was to get away from the streets. So I had to work, I had to do other things as a teenager. But I remember having to sprint from school to the bus stop and jumping into the bus so I wouldn't get jumped. And to be able to provide that for our inner city youth and those that just need something more accessible and not be in the environment they're always in and see the beach like I overheard is so critical. It really did allow me to expand what it is that I was seeing and all the stresses that I had. So I'm in full support of that. Yield back.
All right, thank you, Council Member. We'll go next to Council Member Edson.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I want to thank staff for today's presentation and for all of their efforts on the draft budget. Really appreciate it. And jumping on the bandwagon here, sorry, I was on the bandwagon really early, but I still want to jump on here late. As a longtime supporter and advocate for YOP, I'm very happy that we have funding through June of 2026. But I also hope that longer-term sustainable source of funding can be identified for beyond June 2026. NCTD receives reimbursement from SANDAG for this program. It's not a program that could otherwise be funded by NCTD. YOP is something that's very near and dear to my heart. Growing up with working parents, latchkey kid, The bus was my ticket to after-school activities and to cultural experiences in and around San Diego, including getting to the beach and the zoo and the museums and a whole host of other things. In college, I took the bus to school and to work. And as an adult, rode and continue to ride public transportation to work for pleasure and to meetings like today. I rode the coaster and the trolley. That's my normal. So it's possible for youth to start riding and continue to ride. You know, once you have no fear of public transportation and it's available for you, you become someone who isn't afraid to ride public transportation. So I think that that's a very important point that a lot of people miss. But thank you for continuing to seek funding for this very, very important program.
All right, thank you. We'll go next to Councilmember Fleming.
Thank you. And I want to thank the staff for doing such a good job, I guess, putting together and presenting the budget. I don't remember whether it was Dawn or Susan, I believe it was one of you that mentioned contingency plans, you know, based on the budget and and especially the large amount of funds that SANDAG relies on from our federal government and state governments. And I just wanted to primarily, I guess, encourage you to really dig in deep and look at contingency plans. You know, I think no matter where any of us sit on the political spectrum, you know, one thing I see going on within certainly local, state, and county governments is a very heavy reliance on grants, very heavy reliance not only on our state but on the Fed. And in the meantime, again, no matter where we sit on that political spectrum, in the meantime there was or is a point of reckoning with that, and because our federal government has continued to borrow money year after year after year, and eventually that was going to become very painful. And whether we agree with what the current administration is doing or not, it certainly appears as if it's the current administration is very serious about cutting what's being portrayed as waste within our government and everything else. And I think all of us are, you know, from especially government individuals representing government agencies are going to really have to take a hard look at our dependency on federal funds and how much of that we're really going to be able to depend on moving forward and everything, and really take a hard look at our budgets. So I wanted to commend you for a great job, and but also you know, I guess encourage you to continue to dig deep and really look hard at contingency plans, because I think in many of us will end up dealing with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. We'll go next to Council Member Yamani.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the presentation. I think the flavor of the day is the YOP. I just have you know, I mean, like, economic question about it. What was the FY economic impact, and what would be the FY economic impact on 26? And maybe we can revisit some programs to make sure that we can finagle or put in some funds there, so this opportunity program can continue. Through the chair. And then I understand there are a lot of programs that SANDAG is delivering to the people, as that's our promise to our people as electeds. But I would like to take care of our people for SANDAG. I caught the report of Mr. Golter that there are two trust funds for, you know, I mean, the benefits or compensation benefits. I wanted to know how healthy is that, and is that specific towards the HR compensation, and what is the policy on the use of this? Those are my questions, because as we take care of people, we have to take care of the people that takes care of the the deliverables that we have to deliver to our people. Thank you.
So Antoinette, do you want to start?
I'll
with
take
the
YOP really quickly. That's an easy one. The annual cost of that program is 6.5 million.
And Josh, do you want to address the HR?
Yeah, the two funds, they are 115, Section 115 tax exempt funds. One of them funds are OPEB, that is our other benefits post-employment, once someone retires from SANDAG. The balance in that trust fund is 8.5 million. And then we also have our pension free pre-funding trust. This is our pension obligations to CalPERS as projected out. The budget in, I'm sorry, the balance in that one is 17.3 million there, and both are deemed healthy.
You know, talking, and I'll let Don expand. We have been very cautious on having our reserves for the agency. I think this agency learned it had healthy reserves during the pandemic and was able to make the payments for the 125 bonds that were there. And we take that very seriously. The agency refinance a lot of its debt to the lower interest rates, and that gave capacity and allowed us to put in funding into more reserves for that rainy day situation. Don, do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Well, we do maintain agency reserves, and I believe it's a 10% target for the agency reserves. We have a very healthy capital reserve right now, which is much higher, I think, about $80 million in reserve right now. And so we are, we try to really stay on top of making sure we have a very healthy reserve, and really not spend one-time funds for long-term items. That historically has been something that has occurred, and so we're really kind of working hard to restructure the budget so that ongoing efforts have ongoing funding sources. And if there's something more on the actual reserve balances, Susan has them.
And as a strategy that we're keeping is we're trying to find that that line of agency staffing numbers and managing peaks with consultants. And then we know there were going to be valleys, and that's what allow us to, keep that straight line. So that's why you're not seeing major changes in the number of employees like going up or down, because we're trying to find that straight line that can be managed with consultants with those ups and downs and give less impact to our employees.
Thank you for that, being responsible and proactive with that, Mr. CEO. You said about refinancing of some funds. I'm sure you are diligent in making sure that it doesn't recycle, so that it doesn't keep us in a longer debt service. Wanted to, thank you for making sure that this organization is healthy. Thank you.
All right, thank you, council member. We'll go to Supervisor Escobar.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I rarely talk because I'm just an advisory member to this board, but I just felt compelled to give a couple of shout outs. Shout out number one to obviously be the staff. Yeah, I've been on both sides of the umbrella as an elected official and as a staffer working on a specific budget. Given the uncertainty of California and the fact that we're deeply in the red and the chaos of DC, preparing this budget was probably even more challenging. So, and I just want to give you kudos. Sometimes staff gets a lot of criticism and very little kudos. So congratulations on that. And lastly, congratulations to the individuals from City Heights. It takes cojones, as we say in Spanish, to come up to this type of meetings and express your advocacy for something you deem is definitely something that's needed. So muchas felicidades. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair.
All right, thank you. We'll go to Council President Pro Tem Lee.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you to staff for their work on this as well. I think I'll simply just echo the comments that you've already heard on YOP and to thank Mid-City Can and others from City Heights for coming out. Aside from the actual program expenditures, I think the one thing that has stuck out to me, just because we're seeing it significantly at the City of San Diego, is how best to project revenue moving forward. And I understand that there's already been some reduction of the revenue expectations, for example, from local sources, because we have seen flat or negative sales tax growth at this point. But that's probably the one area looking forward that I'd have the most concern about. I think the volatility that we're seeing at the state and federal levels, seeing whether that compounds into additional sales tax negative growth, I think would have a significant impact. I mean, every 1% there is going to be, as we know already, a sizable number of dollars. I think I also noticed, and without seeing the details of some of the specifics and the reduction, a lot of the revenue that we've seen in terms of growth in the last 2 years appears to be based on some of the federal programs that have increased, for example, through IIJA. And I know we're expecting sort of some flatlining there. But my only concern, again, would just be that if we're basing some of our projections off of the growth that we've had the last couple of years, again, how will the uncertainty moving forward end up relaying to revenue projections once both IIJA come to a close and the uncertainty that we have? So I would say that having contingencies in place probably come into play here. And that also means that as a board here, recognizing where the priorities are going to lay moving forward, for example, with the Youth Opportunity Pass, will be helpful to make those decisions when the budget moves forward. So those would just be my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to circle back to Mayor Snow.
Sorry, I forgot the second page I had. So one of the things that I was going through was the Del Mar Bluffs 5V project is 99.6 million. Del Mar Bluff Access will come to about 23.5 million. And the San Dieguito double track will come to about $35.3 million. So we're spending roughly about $160 million in just a tiny section of the entire San Diego County. And we don't see that kind of investment in East County anywhere even close. So as we're looking for things like opportunities for the Housing Acceleration Grant and those kind of things, I would highly recommend that we look eastward and not focus so much on these very narrow coastal regions. I think there's a lot of neglected area throughout the other side of the county. I also, in trying to get up to speed, as Mayor Gasterlin pointed out, we had voted previously to include options that included doing nothing for the Losan realignment there in Del Mar, and also double tracking option. I didn't know that we had already budgeted out $99 million to do double tracking. So it seems kind of irrelevant to consider a doing nothing option when we're already doing something and have allocated considerable money to do that. And also double tracking where we're already reinforcing and stabilizing the bluffs there and putting that in. So I was unaware of that. That's something I probably should have talked in one of the sessions, like offline, when I was doing my monthly updates with the staff. But I don't see the point in spending money on further researching those 2 options. I know it's not right before us right now, but it seems silly when we're spending 99.6 million to go ahead and restabilize it right now to include that. And then I just don't understand why we're restabilizing it now and spending almost $100 million on this project to just go ahead and realign it in a few more years. Thank you.
Let me address a little bit that point, Mayor. The budget is a snapshot of the year of what the cash flow is. And there's going to be areas where you're going to see more cash flow, especially when projects are in construction. When you see a project, hopefully we could get to 67 soon. I'm going to use that as an example. Right now, we're in the environmental document phase, and that's not as intense from a cash flow perspective than when we get to construction into that project. Talking about the Losan, this board through probably the last 15, 20 years has made the decision to pursue double tracking the Lausanne corridor from beginning to end. Some of the cash flows that you're seeing there, it's for that purpose. Now, the stabilization, it's also a requirement to maintain the line active, right? And we know that the Delmar project, the Lausanne realignment, it's a very long lead project that won't happen tomorrow. So we are mandated to keep that line active for multiple reasons, moving people and goods and military strategy. So I do want to put it in perspective that the budget is a cash flow, and it identifies there's going to be other years that you're going to see it very intense in East County, very intense in North County, very intense in South County, based when we take those projects into construction, and that's when the heavy charging becomes. A lot of those projects have been funded with grants that have already been awarded. Some of them are already have been allocated, meaning the money's already in the agency. And what we're just reflecting is that burn rate, the checks they're going to get signed during the year that it's expected. So I don't know if that helps a little bit in the explanation here of why you see the numbers that you see in the different locations. But for the Lausanne, it's for a good chunk of the entire corridor of what's happening, and also keeping our legal responsibility to maintain that line in operation.
I'll meet with you later and stuff, but I'm unaware of significant to the tune of $160 million projects out in East County. I don't know those, and that's probably my own ignorance at this point, so I'm happy to learn.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll go next to Mayor Jones.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. I just wanted to commend staff on the only increases in staffing are really us checking ourselves, identifying and improving efficiencies, processes, and proactively doing that. You know, on a cost benefit analysis thought, I think we should also be making sure that whatever we're investing in is something that's, we have a thing in our community, it's called Built to Last. Make sure that we are looking at things from that lens as well. But I wanted to also mention that for us to move forward, it could be a very volatile financial basis. So doing this proactively, I think, is going to help us run a more lean, efficient ways that we are currently doing things. And so I just am really happy to see this happening because, you know, we've talked for so long about maybe we could do better, maybe we could do certain things differently. And, you know, internally at the city of San Marcos, we've already found that we've improved efficiencies in 1 month's time, where we've actually already paid for our position of lean government. So I think we're going to, that will be so helpful moving forward. Again, you know, back to the financial climate of OPM, other people's money, and that may end up changing. I say that a lot at my city. So anyway, thank you for the efforts in this, because I think it really will be meaningful for our agency.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll go back to Councilmember Edson.
Sorry, Councilmember Snow, excuse me, Mayor Snow. I know that you're new and there's a lot to learn. I just wanted to, you now have Jennifer Mendoza, who's one of your council members who's serving on the Lausanne board. So I think that she could help inform you as to what the Lausanne corridor means to the San Diego region, and the amount of freight that's moved and what that means to our local community, and to our funding for other things that happen in our community, our economic stability here in San Diego County, and the millions of people that actually ride the Lausanne corridor. So it's something that's used, and those projects are necessary. So for example, the San Diego Rail Bridge, that's a 108-year-old bridge that's timber that's been sitting in tidal waters for 108 years. It badly needs replacement. And double tracking as part of that replacement. So it's also an environmental benefit in that the old bridges, for example, are, you know, bing, 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 bing. What they did with the San Elijo Lagoon when they created the wider freeway was to put in modern spans of concrete, right? That opened up the lagoon to be able to have better tidal flow. The same will happen with the San Dieguito Lagoon Bridge replacement, which will go from being this old, very costly to maintain bridge to something that's new with and modern, and that will allow tidal flow in the San Dieguito Lagoon. So there are a lot of benefits to these programs. And yes, a lot of money has been used to stabilize the bluffs over time, but it's for a good reason. Happy to talk to you anytime or sit down with you with NCTD staff.
Thank you, Council Member. We'll go next to Mayor Gastelum.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up and thank Mayor Snow for asking these questions because these are really important. When I had my briefing, I asked how much is going to be spent in 2026 on the bridge replacement project, the bluff stabilization, and the access. And I was told $81 million for the bridge project, and that's 81 million out of 330 million total. 25 million for the bluff stabilization, and that's 25 million out of 99 million total, and 2 million for the access design. And as you observed, that's out of 23.5 million total. What we didn't put on that list was the planning for the railroad relocation. So what I don't know is how much is going to be spent on that in 2026. I'd certainly like to know. And the total there that was allocated by the state was $300 million back in 2021 legislation. That is an enormous amount of money. I mean, it's more than $500 million being spent in 2.2 square miles Del Mar. I agree with you. And the Coastal Commission mandated that the bluff stabilization be removed in 30 years. So we're spending that 100 million to turn around and spend more money to take it back out. The bluff access is under the railroad, and that is money that if that railroad does get relocated, we won't need it, but we need that access now. So I really do agree, and I'm glad you're asking the questions. Let's step back and let's really look at the timeline and how this all fits together. Do you have that number?
So for the Lausanne Rail Realignment Project in FY '26, we have $30 million for that work that's happening, and that's out of a multi-year budget of 302 million.
Okay, so that adds up to 138 million out of the 685 million is being spent in Del Mar. So the 108 that it was previously is 16% of the capital improvement budget for 2026 will be spent on these things in Del Mar. So it's more than 16%. It's probably now about 20%. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll go to Mayor Minto.
I'm gonna make this quick. Budget. Since you were so respectful and dignified in pointing out how long I've been sitting here. Since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Where's the HR guy? So what I want to say is the one thing that I know is that I've been putting my butt in these chairs for a long time. And I think there's some people in the audience been putting their behinds in those chairs in a long time. Are we going to get any upgraded chairs when we move?
Yes.
There we go.
I rest my case.
Okay.
I'm done.
Literally. Yeah, that's right. I'm not seeing anybody else. I'll kind of add on. Thank you, Mayor Snow. I think one of the things that's great about this board is you have people that have been here a very long time and those that are here for very first time going forward. And it's a good reminder because we can often get swept up in just rolling through project after project. I think what you've mentioned also, and Mayor Gastelum reminds us that this is what happens when you don't take care of your infrastructure. Things get to a tipping point where you then have to concentrate resources, whether it's a double tracking through the city of Solana Beach, the bridge repair. And while we talk about the urgency of the tracks on the bluff, it is still, what, Mario, 10, 15, 20 years down the line, and how we navigate that conversation. And while we took an action on the NOP, I don't think anybody can actually know what is ultimately going to happen after the NOP, after the environmental document, where we're going to land on that conversation in the years ahead. So it really behooves us to see all the missing pieces and try to navigate that. We're fortunate with a very good staff that is going to help us along the way. Those conversations will not be easy. They'll be tough conversations. I have no doubt about that. So with that, again, not seeing any other board members on the lights. Can I have a motion to approve the draft budget? All right, have it. Second by,
Through the chair.
yes.
Are we going to take note of those recommendations or questions from the body? Can we add that if the maker of the motion would add to it?
I think we would have to be more specific. There was a lot of broad comments, which I think were all very important. I'm really grateful for that. I know staff is there anything to actually interpret in terms of how you actually draft the budget as opposed to those thoughts that would incorporate towards the next round of the budget conversation?
So I've noted as everyone was speaking, and we do have a recording of this meeting, so we will certainly be taking that and incorporating it in to the budget that we bring back to you to the extent that we can. I've heard a lot of support for YOP. It's going to take a bit of time to figure out how to fund that in future years, but certainly hearing those comments today is important, but we still probably wouldn't be able to put it in next year's budget. That's going to take a bit of time.
Okay.
Thank you for that consideration, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Okay, with that, we do have a motion by Councilmember Chavez, a second by Mayor Minto to approve the draft budget as recommended by staff. And I think we need to have a roll call again, so please proceed with that.
City of Carlsbad, Councilmember Shin.
Yes.
Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez.
Aye.
Coronado, Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
County of San Diego, Supervisor Anderson.
All right.
City of Del Mar, Mayor Gasterlin.
Yes.
City of El Cajon, Mayor Wells.
Yes.
City of Encinitas, Mayor Ayers.
Yes.
City of Escondido, Councilmember Garcia.
Aye.
City of Imperial Beach, Councilmember McKay.
McKay, aye.
City of La Mesa, Councilmember Lothian.
Aye.
City of Lemon Grove, Mayor Snow.
Aye.
City of National City, Deputy Mayor Yamani.
Yamani, aye.
City of Oceanside is absent. City of Poway is absent. City of San Diego, Vice Chair LaCava.
Aye.
City of San Marcos, Mayor Jones.
Aye.
City of Santee, Second Vice Chair Minto.
Aye.
City of Solana Beach, Mayor Hebner.
Yes.
City of Vista, Deputy Mayor Melendez is absent. Want to close the vote? That's it, close the vote. Oh, Chula Vista, Deputy Mayor Chavez. The motion passes with those members present. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michael. And I owe an apology, Deputy Mayor Chavez. I've been calling you council member all meeting, so my apologies for that. All right, with that, and there was no non-agenda public comment from the beginning. All right. This concludes our meeting. The next Board of Directors meeting will be April 11th at 10:30 a.m. at 1011 Union Street. This meeting is adjourned.